Mm. Hey guys, welcome to Blindspots episode number 7. So we're only in episode 7 for Blindspots because we're kind of just doing the show kind of as like when we have time to do it, and we're definitely wanting to make time for this one because we're going to be covering both Aliens 1 and Aliens. So there'll be the second movie, the first two movies in the franchise. And joining me today, I got a couple guests. I have Chris, the Casablanca Kid. How you doing?
Doing good, buddy, man. I'm excited to talk about these movies. I remember watching them forever ago, but I think as I kind of posted like a review video or whatever, I feel like I probably watched the movies like this. Holy shit, it's scary, it's scary, it's scary. I can't watch.
Yeah, right.
So I didn't really like appreciate them until this watch. So it was fun. And
right on. But yeah, so these are blind spots for me. I just saw them for the first time, but we'll cut over to the person who has probably seen it the most times, Austin Pez.
Right.
How you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's usually your guys' show, just you and Chris, but when you said you're going to be doing Aliens or even Alien and Aliens, I was like, dude, you got to have me on. It's my favorite movie of all time. I've, no joke, probably watched it over 200 times as far as Aliens goes. And the first Alien I still really like, but I've only watched that maybe a dozen times or so. I say only a dozen times, but only a dozen times.
Yeah.
But yeah, Aliens is one of my. If you know me for more than a day, you know it's one of my favorite movies of all time. So I had to get in on this discussion and talk about it.
Nice, yeah. And before this, this episode that we're filming today, the only Alien movie that I had seen was like Alien Covenant, and then I think I saw Alien versus Predator, but I had no context as to like what anything was. I just knew what the aliens looked like.
With the worst two, so I mean you're fine.
I know, right? Yeah, only with the worst two. So, yep. So,
but I think I've seen most all of them, like including Alien 3. And I've definitely saw Alien versus Predator. Loved that one. And then the sequel to that is just like it's just dark. Like it's all pitch black.
Yeah, you literally can't see anything that's going on in Requiem. Yeah, it's literally the screen. Yeah. You have to turn up the brightness on your television, and even then you can't see what's going on. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Right. Yeah,
and I saw that movie when I saw it in the theater. I saw it in the front row of a theater, so that made it even 10 times worse.
Right?
Oh yeah, so you got to go like this the whole time. Just in the neck breaker seats. But yeah, at least for these two movies, they have low lighting, but it's done right. It's done in a way where you can see the low lighting, but also see everything that's going on. And then you have some really cool, like some like strobe lights, some red lights, like all kinds of cool, like different lighting that actually works for these two movies. So
kind of a cool, kind of. Since you mentioned the lighting, one of the interesting facts about this movie actually is apparently when they were filming this movie on another soundstage, The Who was also working on a music video, and they liked the blue lights they were using, which then were used in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very cool! Because
the band The Who are the reason we have the lights we do.
Nice, because that would
pretty cool.
It would have been awesome to like do like a Who music video and like have like a xenomorph pop out or something. That'd be kind of crazy.
Pretty sure there was a music video involving a xenomorph, at least for a tie-in of like Alien Resurrection, because that movie's like very much like a music video. I can't remember who, but I can imagine there was some kind of video because that was around '97, so it was when there was just like rock videos all over VH1 and MTV, and like everybody was trying to do weird things with it. And that movie, the guy who did Alien Resurrection was like a music video director. So it's it's just one of those things where I could totally see that, but I don't have any proof of that. I'm just talking out of my ass right now.
Right.
So
it
take what I say
with
nothing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But what do you want to say though that especially the first Alien, I mean, it's over 40 years old, so these are full spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, you may want to tune out. But or just or just watch the beginning, because as we progress, we're going to get towards the ending. And probably
spoiler alert, they're both awesome, so just watch them and then come back and watch this.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Just watch them both.
Yep.
Yeah. Although
that's the way to do it.
Completely different, tonally wise, completely different movies, as we'll discuss for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the first one that we're gonna talk about, we're gonna get into Alien without an S, and this movie was released in 1979. It was released on July 25th, 1979. So, and also, I think that it could be considered by a lot of people to be at least a modern classic. Maybe even by now it's 42 years old. You could probably just consider it a straight up classic by now. So.
No, it's just a classic. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's a 70s movie through and through. I mean, you can still tell when you watch it, the hairstyles and the actors that are in it are straight 70s style. And of course they've got what they thought it would look like. So you've got the blinking lights in the background constantly, and you still got the computer screens that aren't really screens. It's just the text scrolling across and things like that. So, but it's definitely a 70s movie. Set in this futuristic space. I think it's set in like the 2100s, I believe, something like that. But yeah, I didn't write down the official date, but yeah, I mean, it's still a 70s movie through and through, but it gives it a certain charm, much like the 80s movie. Aliens is definitely an 80s movie in certain aspects as well.
Yeah, at least they went far enough in the future to set it in like the 2021s or whatever. Like they didn't just do like in the year 2020, which is literally like not that long. So some people hit that. They're like this is nothing like the future, kind of like Back to the Future 2015 or whatever. It's like, okay, we've not progressed that far at all. But the runtime for this movie, it's 1 hour and 57 minutes. So and the first movie, I think most people would consider it sci-fi horror. So that'd be the genre for the first one. And I just want to say the writing for both these movies is phenomenal. Like I think that like there's so many great lines, especially the way that they're delivered also. And then especially when we get into the second one, there's so many great one-liners too. So I mean there's a few in the first, but there's a ton in the second one. So
the first one is not terribly quotable, just as far as quotable sake, but that's also a trait that didn't come along with movies really until the 80s. So we started really popping with like quotable lines and catchphrases and things that caught on. 70s movies were more about functional dialogue and just getting things out there, unless you were a comedy necessarily. And it being a horror movie and a sci-fi movie, a lot of it is expositional dialogue and people just having these conversations. It's not about getting catchphrases out or getting things to stick necessarily. Yeah, making jokes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and so I got a little game. You can go ahead if you got one more thing.
Yeah, because sort of to follow up with that, Austin, I was going to say, I was actually kind of surprised. Like I was going back and looking at like memorable quotes from Aliens. And that really didn't feel like as you said, like that many quotes where you're like, okay, yeah, that's a gotcha. Yeah, that's something you can quote with your friends. Say back and forth. It definitely had that. That kind of dialogue.
Yeah, there's a few of them, but not really ones you consider like a one-liner. But there's some memorable quotes, and we can kind of get into it here in a little bit. But
I have one of my favorites.
Yeah, for sure. But we have a little game that I wanted to play, just a quick one. I'm going to ask Chris first because I'm sure Austin already knows the answer to it. But do you know the tagline for the original Aliens movie? Do you know?
I do.
You know what it is, Chris? So you should.
They can't
take a little guess.
They can't hear you scream in the dark.
Close.
Well, it's pretty close. So, will you know it, Austin?
I'll let you. The correct one is in space. No one can hear you scream.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, like it just kind of
such a great tagline. It's awesome.
Yeah, like it's one of the best taglines for almost any movie. I'd say like it just totally sets the tone. You had it on all the movie posters when it came out. So yeah, that's an awesome tagline there. But and then I was just gonna read the synopsis for the movie. I just pulled this off of Rotten Tomatoes here, but it says, in the depths of the cold, boundless space, Mother, the state-of-the-art AI supercomputer aboard the commercial towing vehicle USCSS Nostromo, detects a possible distress signal from the nearby barren, inhospitable moon Acheron or Acheron. I'm not sure like how to say that, the name of the moon, but it awakens the 7-member crew from cryosleep to investigate the mysterious transmission, and Captain Arthur Dallas, along with the executive officer Thomas Kane and navigator Joan Lambert, descend to the dim-lit celestial body known as LV-426, only to discover a down but relatively intact extraterrestrial spacecraft and its bizarre cargo. But was this cryptic signal indeed a desperate SOS, or was it a warning? Either way, somehow something else too has found its way into the Nostromo, and now its silent, dark corridors will never be safe again. Who dares to confront the formidable alien, the unwanted 8th passenger? That's what they kind of call it. But yeah. So then I got one more little quick game here that I always have people try to guess what you think that the Rotten Tomatoes score was. So if you guys had to guess, you can just take a stab at it.
I'll exclude myself because I looked it up for my research. So, when I'm doing my homework,
so you already know?
Exclude myself. Although to be fair, it might not be accurate to what it was back in the day, but I'll explain in a second.
Yeah, right.
Chris, ask right now. Go ahead.
So from the critics first, what do you think that the critics gave it?
The critics, well, so I actually also
100.
Stumbled upon that page because I went to look at movie quotes,
so you saw.
and I opened up Rotten Tomatoes. So yeah, the 90, can I say 98%?
Yeah,
surprised the hell out of me because this
90%,
movie's really good.
That's
and
pretty high from critics.
It's freaking scary. It doesn't feel like, or at least I wouldn't think that it would be something that everyone could love or relate to. I think that obviously there are going to be people out there that love this movie, but I'm like, would it really be that high? And then Austin, you were going to say, okay, that you don't think it really would have been that high
at the time. Well, that's the score. What it is now, because it's been reassessed over the years, much like The Thing. At the time, the scores and the reviews were actually somewhat mixed on it. There was a lot of really positive reviews. There was a lot of really negative reviews. A lot of people thought it was just kind of an empty space horror movie with not a whole lot of substance, not a lot going on, a very simplified plot. And actually, if you go back and watch, I went back and watched the Siskel and Ebert review for this movie from '79 because they started doing the show in '76. So you can go back and see clips online of all this stuff. They both gave it 2 thumbs up, but they were kind of 2 mild thumbs up. Sort of, they were both kind of like, I liked it, but it was, Ebert especially has always been kind of a wimp when it comes to horror movies. So he's like, I got really scared. I didn't really want to watch some of the parts. I'm kind of peeking through my eyes. He's kind of a notorious wimp when it comes to horror movies. Leonard Maltin, famed film critic, did not like the movie when it came out and changed his score for the movie guide. He changed it. He reassessed it in, I believe, the early 2000s when it got a re-released theatrical run with the kind of director's cut, and he changed it to a positive review. So it's been reassessed over the years, and people have realized that, much like John Carpenter's The Thing.
Okay.
Wow. So the audience score was at a 94, but I'm not sure if that one was maybe as true when it first came out. I don't really know. It's really hard to say.
It was a hit, so people did enjoy it. I mean, it scared the crap out of people when it came out, and the movie was a commercial hit. I mean, I believe it made somewhere, when adjusted for inflation, it made in the high $270 million range, something like that. And for a movie, I believe it was it made about 70 million or 100 million worldwide, which adjusted for inflation is in the 200s. That's a big hit for the time. For 1979, it was huge.
Yeah.
Well, and also apparently this is the first action kind of horror movie that won a female actress Best Actress award. So that was unheard of before this movie.
Oh yeah,
something else.
Yeah, because
that surprised me too.
Are you talking about Alien or Aliens?
Maybe I'm...
Because Aliens, Sigourney Weaver got an Oscar nomination for Aliens not for Alien.
Okay,
Alien, the original Alien had it's okay. The Alien had two Oscar nominations originally, but both were for art direction and like sound design. Things like that. So it was a lot of technical achievements. And then the second movie got a little more acclaim kind of across the board for different categories.
Okay.
Yeah, but was this really like in the first few years that they started having these big summer blockbusters? I mean, Jaws kind of started it, but then you have Star Wars, you have Alien. So I mean, because it came out in July, right in the heart of the summertime, so that's like big movie going season even back in the 70s. So yeah.
Well, it was one of those things where around the time, once Star Wars had blown up at the box office, a lot of these studios started greenlighting scripts that involved space or any kind of space science fiction. So, and this was one of the scripts that was kind of floating around for a little while, originally called Star Beast, that got retooled later by Dan O'Bannon, and became more of like a horror kind of movie. So, but it was another thing where it got initially greenlit just because it involved a crew in space dealing with something, and Star Wars had blown up. So it's like, let's go with the space, just like 007 went to space with Moonraker right after Star Wars.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was just going to get into some of the cast here. So the main cast, you have Sigourney Weaver, obviously, playing Ripley. You have Tom Skerritt playing Dallas. You have John Hurt as Kane. You have Veronica Cartwright as Lambert. Harry Dean Stanton as Brett, and Ian Holm as Ash, and then Yaphet Kotto as Parker. So and
oddly enough, out of that crew, Yaphet Kotto and John Hurt, some of the side characters, may have been the most famous people going into this movie, because Sigourney Weaver, Tom Skerritt, Ian Holmes, some of these guys were not very well known at the time. This is a relatively unknown cast. In fact, Yaphet Kotto may have been the most known person in this cast because he had played a Bond villain 6 years earlier in Live and Let Die. He played Mr. Big.
That's right.
So he might have been actually the most famous person in this movie, despite being kind of a side character, so to speak.
Yeah, right.
Well, I kind of like I remember like seeing him, like, what else have I seen him in? And that was such a great villain role in that movie.
Yeah. He was also in the Running Man with Schwarzenegger. He's been in a bunch of stuff, man. He passed away recently. I've got a little trivia bit about some of the people who have passed away since this movie. Some of the crew members or cast members. We'll get into that a little later, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And basically in this movie, they're just trying to get home, and then they get this distress call, and then like everything goes horribly awry. So
the short synopsis of this movie could be: space truckers find something weird, shit goes sour.
Yeah, right.
Basically.
That's basically the plot of this movie in a condensed version.
One of my favorite parts, and it's a little thing, but I love that Jonesy the cat, you can't forget of Jonesy the cat, has own spot at the table when they're all sitting there eating. I thought that was adorable.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Yeah, and also too, like, so like we can kind of get into some of our favorite scenes from the movie, but like when you talk about Star Wars, you can tell that Star Wars was definitely a huge influence. You see all the shots of the ship that look just like right out of Star Wars. You see all the different corridors and like the different parts of it. Just like remind me a lot of Star Wars. And I kind of feel like maybe even going forward for like future Star Wars movies, maybe they took a little bit from Aliens too for some of those scenes too.
The ship design itself is actually really cool, with sort of this four corner square design with like, it just is like this perimeter almost with nothing in the center, and just these long corridors with these sort of four towers kind of all connected together. It looks more like a toy kind of floating through space than a functional spaceship, but it makes sense given the conceit of the film, which is that they are literally space truckers. They are there to transport cargo. They are miners. They're transporting mining materials. So it's more of a cargo, like a space 18-wheeler, as opposed to something that's made for exploration. They're not astronauts. That's one of the coolest things about this movie, is that they're not like trained. I mean, I'm sure they had some kind of space training, obviously, if you're going to go into space, but they are not there to do spacewalks. They're not there to explore new worlds. They literally have this directive that says you have to check stuff out if you come across something in your travels. And so they're just like, I mean, imagine just taking the guys at the local truck stop over here and telling them to check out something that crashed into Earth. And that's kind of what you had, you know? So that's one of the interesting conceits about the movies. They're just regular guys. They're having discussions about what kind of money they're going to get from doing this little side mission. Hey, what about our bonuses? You know, what about what are we going to get paid for this? You know, it's the exact same thing any blue collar worker would be saying if you had to go off and do a little task. Hey, what's my percentage going to be? Am I going to get paid for this? Am I going to get some hazard pay? And that's one of the coolest conceits of the movie is like they have these real conversations that I would be having.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and also like, so you talk about the like cinematography and like all the shots. So like talking about the like shots of the ship. You not only have that, but you have the shots of like the outside of the ship. You have the shots of like the planet and the moon. You know, the shots of the creature, the way everything's lit up, like we already kind of mentioned. But like like it's just really beautiful to look at. Like a lot of stunning shots and stuff. So like that was really cool. And
some of the best shots in the movie. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I apologize. The best shots in the movie are when they're first exploring. When they get down to the surface, these giant sets that they build for this movie. The H.R. Giger, art direction. The sets that they did, which are just exploring this massive space. The designs of the space jockey, the creature that's dead, kind of in the middle there. Just the art direction and production design is just incredible. If you had never seen this movie, you're like, whoa! Like they put so much detail, that artistic detail that can only come from an artist with a weird brain like H.R. Giger, who just makes like goofy, weird, out there stuff, you know, that you couldn't get from just any normal production designer. It's what makes this movie stand out so much. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and also too, when they go down to check out this distress call too, they go to see the ship, and the ship that they go and explore on it, just massive, like it's a huge ship. And then they finally come upon all the eggs too, and that's a really creepy scene. Like I just see like all these hundreds of eggs, and they're like what the hell is this? Like what did we come upon? You know? So yeah, that's just like pretty cool, like pretty awe-inspiring, but also like pretty creepy too.
The whole movie just feels icky. It feels slimy. There's always stuff. There's always stuff dripping, and it just looks slick, and it looks like you're getting stuff on your face, and the face huggers just always are just wet. Everything's wet and gross, and you just feel icky when you watch it. Like you have to take a shower and clean yourself up afterwards. It's one of the cool things about the movie.
Like the whole movie, I was gonna say. So I know we've kind of skipped past this, but like the opening movie, everything's just silent. It's like if you walked into an abandoned building somewhere and you were to look around and you were to feel that kind of that eerie feeling, like somebody's obviously been there, but they haven't been there in a long time. That's how this movie felt to me. With the opening of the darkened ship, like you see like the helmets. It's literally a computer, and it lights up. And then you see the lights going around the ship, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, so somebody's obviously doing something normal. No. And then you kind of like take back to where they're all in cryo state. You're like, oh, well, shit. No one's been awake for a long time. So like that whole like thing for me kind of set like the stage of what we were going to eventually see later. Yeah.
Yeah, it really sets the mood for the isolation horror aspect of this movie, that they really are alone. And it's like the tagline says, that in space, no one can hear you scream, because it's one of the cool conceits about the movie. It's like, what do you do? If you're stuck in this situation, you know, on other movies where it's set on Earth or something, maybe you can run somewhere, maybe you can drive somewhere, you can possibly get out of the situation. There's somewhere to go. You're in space. You're just on this ship. Where do you go? What do you do? And you can't start blasting all over the place or doing something crazy, because what are you going to do then? You're going to blow up your own ship. I mean, that's obviously what happens at the end, but it's like, you have to seriously think about this. Where are you going to go? And there's a reason they called the recent video game Alien Isolation, because they do a great job of setting that isolated mood, in that they've got to take care of these problems themselves, and there's no help coming.
Yeah, right, for sure. And really, the first scene that really got to me, it was when they're down there on the planet, and they're looking ship and all these eggs that they find, and then the first guy gets attacked by one of the face huggers, but it's on the outside of his helmet, so it doesn't really get to him right away. But like it's just a really good jump scare. And I think that like Aliens, they do a few jump scares, but they do it right. They don't really do like cheap jump scares. They do ones that actually fit really well, you know. So yeah, so I really.
They're
like
earned
the first
because
really creepy thing.
They don't rely on the jump scares. All the jump scares are earned jump scares that are built up to it. They're down there, like you said, John Hurt's character. They're down there exploring. They're walking around. The thing slowly opens up, and you slowly see the thing kind of moving around in there, and you're like, "What's in there? Is he gonna look in there?" And then boom, and it's there, and then it's like, "Oh my god!" And then it kind of calms down a little bit after that. But even we'll talk about the chest burster scene at the table, obviously, probably in a minute, but it's another kind of great scare. But it's like some of the scares in Jaws. Again, they're earned. They're not cheap. They're not doing stuff where, people are just coming out of nowhere and loud noises and just music cues or something stupid. These are earned jump scares, which I appreciate.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, that was the next thing I was going to bring up was the chest burster scene, because like when it pops out, like it just, well, not even did it freak me out. Like it just was kind of like whoa, like what the hell is this thing? And you just see it kind of skitter off into the like dark spot of the ship, and you're just like whoa, this thing's out there somewhere. Like what the hell was that just kind of came? And then like we're all staring at it to like what do we do? Do we touch it? What are we supposed to do? And then it just like takes off, and you're like whoa. And like by our standards, you can kind of see that it's like definitely practical effects, definitely like on a track shooting off somewhere. But like for the time though, like it was like a really cool effect and stuff. So yeah, the way that
and they used real guts, and none of the actors that you're seeing their reactions knew this was going to happen.
Okay.
Oh, really?
I want to quell part of a myth here right now before we even go any further to what Chris just said. There's a little bit of a myth online about that the actors did not know what was going to happen. Well, that's half true, and let me explain.
Half true.
So it's half true. So the actors knew that something was going to burst out of John Hurt, because obviously this is the conceit. They've read the script. They know there's a creature and a pneumatic that's going to pop out. Okay, they all knew that. The part that they didn't know was the second blood splatter that happens, the one that covers Veronica Cartwright Lambert in the face and really gets her. They put extra blood bags in the pneumatic thing, so it's the amount of blood they got sprayed. Their reactions are genuine as to when they got sprayed, and they genuinely were like, "Oh my god!" Because she's screaming, you can hear her in the background. "Oh god! Oh god! Oh!" Like she gets it right in the face. And what it was they just did not know all that blood was going to spray out them.
Okay.
And what they did was they got it all in one take. They set up 5 cameras and got all the genuine reactions and then cut them all together. So it's a little bit of a half truth about the whole internet myth about, they didn't know what was going to happen. Yeah, they did know what was going to happen. Of course they did. It's a movie. They read the script. They know what's going to happen. But they put in some extra goo and extra guts to get more of a genuine reaction. It's kind of like how in Die Hard, they drop Hans Gruber on 2 instead of 3 and got his genuine reaction when they drop him. That was kind of a behind-the-scenes thing in Die Hard, and he kind of genuinely screams a little early. It's something like that.
Okay, yeah, and also Veronica Cartwright too. Like I think she did great. Like just really like having those like freak out scenes. She really freaks out and just like it generally looks like just like really, really terrified. So I thought she was great in that, just showing the pure terror, you know. So yeah, she did a really awesome
She's in
job.
my other favorite horror movie, the 70s Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and she does good freak out screams in that movie also.
Oh,
yeah.
That is such a great movie.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things that just gets to me is like, why don't they like try to contain these creatures more? Why don't they just try to grab it, or like try to contain it in a room, or contain it in a box, or like?
Well, if you notice in the chest burster scene, Yaphet Kotto takes a knife and goes to stab it, and Ash says, "No, don't do it," and he holds him off. because he wants to keep it alive, which should be your first clue that he has some ulterior motives here, which we find out later. So, I mean, Yaphet Kotto was quick to try to jump on it and kill it and stab it. And, it's the same thing when we see John Hurt kind of laying in the medical, with the face hugger on him, that a lot of them are just like, they don't know what to do. Oh, let's just kill it. Oh, we can't kill it because it's connected to him. If we do that, he'll die. What do we do? Do we freeze him? Do we dispose of it? I mean, most of the crew is all for getting rid of this thing. But the problem is Ash keeps kind of stepping in as the science authority because it's supposed to be a science mission. Well, its mother has overridden the system and given control to Ash because he's the science officer and says your new objective is to study this thing or to study whatever you pick up. So that should be your first clue that there's going to be some ulterior motives later in the movie as he stops every attempt almost to kill the creature early on.
Yeah, because
it's funny in hindsight that makes sense, but when you're watching the movie, I did not suspect.
Oh, right.
I did not.
Well, that's one thing I want to ask Jordan. So, some stuff did you see coming? Did you not see? Did you know Ash was an android? Did you see that coming? Much like the crew kind of discovers.
Well, I didn't really see him as an android, no. So that part was a different surprise, but I kind of felt like somebody's gonna end up betraying somebody. At some point is what I kind of felt, but I wasn't really sure who. I didn't even know if it was going to be Ash, but I kind of had a vibe that somebody might. So yeah, he kind of played it pretty well. They did pretty good at kind of hiding all that for the big reveal, So
so in the very beginning, obviously when they're coming back to the ship, banging on the door, hey, let us in, and Sigourney Weaver character Ripley's this is not what we're supposed to do. He overrides it basically, and for a minute there, I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing?" But he seems like at that time that he's just genuinely compassionate about these people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, right.
I didn't buy that he was android or had kind of ulterior motives, but all the things you're talking about were little breadcrumbs that led up to the eventual turning on them.
Mm-hmm.
When I first watched it, though, I was just man, they got to contain this thing. They got to do something to put it in a room to where it can't escape and run amok all over the ship or something. But
most of the movie though is spent of them just trying to locate the thing in the first place because they can't just get a handle on him, because it's hard to track with heat because he kind of blends in. It's just them trying to find it before they can do it, which kind of gets to another one of the great scenes, which is the air duct scene with Captain Dallas, crawling around with the flamethrower. Is they kind of get an idea of where he is, and they're like, okay, we're going to flush him out kind of in the air ducts. We know he's been crawling around through the air ducts, and we're going to kind of see what we can do. And that's another great scene with a nice big button at the end of it, a nice big punch.
Oh yeah.
When he finally lights it up,
There's another scene too where I want to say it's Harry Dean Stanton, but I could be wrong. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But with the scene where he gets attacked by one of the xenomorphs that pops out, and then he has the cat there that's staring back at the xenomorph. And so I really like that scene. Because you see the cat kind of getting freaked out too, and then later on down the road, you even have some more scenes with the cat kind of freaking out some of the crew members. But I like having the cat there as a character. It's kind of
that's another behind the scenes,
comedic relief sort of thing.
Behind the scenes little tidbit is they used a German Shepherd on set to get the cat to kind of hiss and get mad and get some reaction shots sort of the cat. They would bring a very mean looking German Shepherd and they cry. That sort of thing. You get those reaction shots. But one of the cool things about the Harry Dean Stanton one you talk about is just how cool the design of the alien is, essentially because it can just blend in with the walls and the chains and the machinery. It's the H.R. Giger's designs are very machine-like and very gear-like. They're very mechanical. So the fact that it can just blend in is one of the reasons why they can't find it, because it's all black. It just blends right in with the walls. It's so cool. Yeah, that's why they literally can't see it. And we kind of
suspected maybe it was adapting, maybe it was. They even talked about that. They said, "Well, it's learning how we do things." So I thought maybe it was learning that that's what they were using as a heat seeker. So maybe it adjusted its body temperature so it couldn't be found.
It could be, but yeah, most of it is just it figures out ways to kind of blend in with the machinery, much like near the end of the movie when she's on the lifeboat ship and she doesn't even see him. Remember, she doesn't even see him. He's turned sideways into the wall, and she doesn't even notice till the hand pops out. So I mean, it just and there's even shots throughout the movie where it's in the background if you look closely, but you don't see it. They just pan right by it. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, the movie gets better the more times you watch it because you pick up little things in some of these scenes. It's really, really great.
So they don't really have very many guns on the ship. It's just like some flamethrowers and shocker sticks, that kind of thing. Or like, do they have guns to really?
Guns and spaceships do not mix very well because if you puncture a hole in a spaceship with a gun, it usually doesn't end very well, sucking out all the oxygen. So guns and spaceships usually do not mix very well. Hence why they're using a lot of sort of homemade flamethrowers.
Also, and this is just in my little facts thing I came across. Initially, and that was one of the biggest things. Like, well, they could just shoot the alien. It's easy. Well, that's why they had the acid come out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So actually,
it's one of Yaphet Kotto's responses where they actually bring up shooting it, and he said he's got a wonderful defense mechanism. You don't dare kill it because of the acid blood, because you might shoot it, but if it gets on you, it's going to burn you up and burn your insides. So it's another reason why it's kind of a perfect organism. It has all these built-in camouflage and defense mechanisms. One of the reasons why it's hard to fight it. But they're also. But again, remember back to the premise. They're space truckers. What's the reason why they would have an arsenal? They wouldn't have an arsenal on board. They're just miners and they might have a gun maybe if somebody kind of just had one, but they just have these flame units and these grappling guns like that she uses at the end on the lifeboat, to shoot it at the end, things like that, not really, and just kind of homemade weapons. You're not going to have stuff. Yeah, you're not going to have military weapons for a cargo mission. It's just not it's not a thing.
Unless you just happen to have a gun on board.
Right, if somebody just happened to maybe have one. Yeah.
One of the most terrifying things too, like is the acid. So the acid literally eats through anything. It'll eat through pure steel, it'll eat through bone, and it'll eat through pretty much.
Well, it's anything. Another reason I believe there's dialogue about if we even kill it, if we do something, the acid could burn through the hull and collapse the ship. So it's you have to be strategic and they're not on a planet, they're not on an Earth where you can shoot it no problem or just in some building. You're out in space, and if you create a big hole in the ship and it goes through some critical systems and burns through several levels and burns through the hull, you're gonna have a big problem, and you're not gonna be able to fix it. So that's another one of the quandaries of the movie is how do we get this thing? And that's why they kind of go with the flamethrowers, is we can burn it up without completely, burning holes in the ship, essentially, with the acid.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that I like about the movie. That's so much more like realistic like that. They actually think of all those little things. Whereas some other sci-fi movies, like I'm just making this up out of thin air, but like you would have like an alien that has acid, but then they'd have a trope where we're gonna burn through anything except for the whole of the ship, it'll just do that.
Hey, I gotta take this phone call, guys.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
You're good. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna mute my video just so I stay here.
Sure.
No problem. Me and Jordan will talk a little bit. So
no,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Think of the little finite details. What if you fire off a gun? What if you kill through this thing and what would happen to all the blood acid? What would happen to all these little things? But a lot of other sci-fi movies don't really think about those little details,
Well, it was one thing they thought of when they were doing the script process and the shooting script was how do we get around them just not shooting it, or if they were stabbing it, or whatever it is, how do we not get around the thing of killing it easily? And that's where the acid blood came in, because you could, but if they're in a spaceship, literally in the middle of space, it's going to cause problems if it eats through the hull or eats through different layers or any kind of vital systems or wires or whatever. They're going to be in a lot of trouble. So it's much like how movies today have to get around the cell phone problem of people who have cell phones. How you have to kind of make conceits to get around that. That's one of the things they thought about, and it's one of the more intelligent horror movies is they think about this, and their characters talk about it, and the characters for the most part are fairly intelligent and make good decisions, again, for the most part, other than when Ash is intervening, kind of getting him to keep it alive. But then when you find out his ulterior motives, then that kind of explains some of those decision making.
Yeah, right. And also too, they like really pay attention to like some of those little like finite details, even like the things that make it so creepy. Like you have the alien like shed its skin like a snake, and so they find that little skin there. And, like that's a sign that it's like growing, it's like getting bigger, and then also you have we have them tracking them the aliens on the radar, so that kind of adds to the tension, because you see like it's getting closer, it's coming right for me. They can see it on the radar, just kind of moving along. You know?
And they
so
took that to another level with the motion trackers and aliens that I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute. You know, with the motion tracker that thump, 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 you know, all that stuff in the sequel. But yeah, I mean, that's what's cool about it is it's a slow escalation that builds and builds and builds to where we don't even see the alien for about an hour into the movie. Right. You know, and from there it's like body after body after body, you know, piling up, you know, one after another. And again, the characters just get to a point where it's like, all right, even the you know, Ash, this guy, he's following even the computer. We can't even trust the computer because the computer wants us to keep this thing alive. So like, what are we gonna do? We're just gonna blow up the damn ship. and everybody's like, well, fucking hey, let's blow up the ship, you know? So it's just one of those things where, you know, you kind of run out of options at that point. But it's really cool that the built of tension and the built of escalation as things start going down, as people, you know, Lambert is one of the last few characters. She's freaking out constantly. Yaphet Kotto, you know, as Parker is he's kind of got more of a cool head, but he's like, dude, can we just do something about this thing or get out of here or something? You know, can we just leave? So, you know, they want to do that. And yeah, it's one of the cooler things about the film. So, I mean, how was it for you? Did it scare you at any moments, or did you get kind of built up into the action, you know, as it got kind of towards the finale?
Well, it had a creepy vibe for me. Like I'm one of those people that like I get scared at like the like weirdest things. Like I get scared from like movies that are like something not even supposed to be that scary. They're just kind of like have a creepy vibe. But then I'll watch like The Exorcist, and it won't even like. It really phased me. So it's like
I'm kind of the same way. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Yeah. But like you can recognize how good it is, but you're like, I'm not really like, you know, shaking in my seat right now. You know what I mean? Yeah,
right. But like definitely though, like I had a creepy vibe, and like just waiting for like the next time that one of these aliens is gonna pop out. Like that definitely had me on an edge a little bit. Because like one of them,
it almost plays like a 80s horror movie that we would see kind of in the 80s, you know, where it's just kind of stalking them and being patient and taking them out one by one in these various situations, you know.
Yeah, like sorry guys.
No worries.
Oh, you're good, man.
That was work.
but like one of the creepiest scenes though was the one that you mentioned a little earlier, where the alien jumps out at Tom Skerritt, kind of out of the little duck thing, like that, like and goes after Dallas, like when he finally dies in that way, like that's probably one of the like creepiest moments for me that like really got me. So like that was definitely like a really
did you guys
good, like kill.
Watch the director's cut? Because I have a note about Dallas. Did you guys watch the new edit of the movie? That's like an hour and 55 minutes.
I didn't watch it. I watched the original theatricals.
I did not, but my friend, my good friend Ron's like, dude, you got to watch the theatrical. It really explains the movie more.
Okay, well, the only reason I asked that is because the newer cut that they did included a scene where Ripley, when she's running around the ship at the end trying to get a lifeboat, runs into Dallas, and he's alive in his cocoon. He has been impregnated by one of the eggs. So, she discovers him very quick and kind of finds the alien nest in the ship. It's in this one room, and Harry Dean Stanton is in there, but he's already dead, things like that. And he kind of, you know, he doesn't even really have his eyes open, and he just goes, "Kill me." So he's just saying, "Kill me, kill me." And she tortured him with a flamethrower. So technically he didn't die in the air duct. He was taken to the little nest in the ship and cocooned up. So really, he dies with the flames.
Oh wow!
Wow, that's cool.
Because like in the second movie, you see a lot more of that kind of stuff where they're kind of cocooned up like that.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things about the sequels. They explore the mythos a little bit more and kind of explain a little bit more and kind of adds to it while keeping the same vibe. So I mean, that's one of the cooler things. Is you always want to escalate, explain a little more, but again, not too much. We get just enough to kind of pique your curiosity.
Yeah, for sure. And like one of the things that really got to me, so like when you find out that Ash is really an android all along, so you like pretty much find out that their mission, that like they were all doomed from the very beginning. Like you had to like some kind of directive to just kind of kill them all, or like
they were basically just crew was expendable, is what Mother says. That the alien kind of preservation of the specimen is above the crew. If they are expendable, if you have to get rid of them, then you get rid of them. And once Ash kind of figures out that Sigourney Weaver wants to blow up the ship and just get rid of everything, that's when he kind of reveals himself. That's when he turns. And man, it's super creepy. It gets to me when he's just trying to stuff that magazine like in her mouth and down her throat. That's horrifying. Yeah. I mean, it's nuts. And luckily Yaphet Kotto comes in with the fire extinguisher and starts beating him half to death until he comes in for the save. But yeah, like it's really creepy, just the way like she's just like she just can't breathe. Like it's a unique way kind of for him to strangle her, I guess, but it's very creepy.
And like I knew there's no way she could die, but in that moment it felt like possibly
you still feel like it, yeah.
You still feel like it.
She might, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And the way the film is shot, like as you said, like, and I don't know, maybe it's the closeness of the shot, but it almost feels like for a second you can't breathe too.
Right? Yeah, it does almost.
Yeah,
and also while we're at it,
kind of smothering the screen as well. Like he's just covering her, and just like you can feel the pressure that he's putting on her. Just the way Ian Holm is the acting performance, just the blankness of his face, and you can feel like you almost see like the fish shaking. Like it's very, very creepy. Like it's a great performance.
Yeah, for sure. And if I would have seen the first Aliens movie before I saw Lord of the Rings, I probably would have had a little different like vibe to it.
Because you're like, don't do that, Bilbo. What are you doing?
Yeah. Like Bilbo, like he's gonna suffocate her, or like he's not really real. He's just an android or something,
Right.
Right. But but like I do want to mention while we're at it, the ship's computer Mother, because like Mother is basically a character in itself too. So like she just like gives them all these directives, gives them things on the screen. I don't know if she actually speaks. Does she speak? I think she just like writes words.
She doesn't speak. It's just like that written text, and they make inquiries and make questions, and it just spits out the text. And only certain crew members have access to Mother. So at the beginning, it's just the main officers. It's Dallas, it's Kane, it's Ash, and it's Ripley. The rest of the crew does not have access to it, which is why she does a security override, and then finds out that the directive of that the crew is expendable, and that the scientific exploration and the preservation of the specimen comes above all of them. And that's when she kind of clicks with her, and she's like, well, screw this, I'm getting out of here. We're done with this. Even the ship is against me. That's why. Even the ship doesn't care about me. So we're out.
Right. I love that moment where she's like screaming. She's like, shut it down.
Yeah, right.
Mother.
Yeah, Mother.
She's like screaming like that. And then also like when she goes after Ash, I don't know what the white stuff is that he's drinking. They get some kind of white stuff, and then when
we'll get into that in the trivia. So I'll give some trivia bits later, and that's a part of it. So we'll get into that.
Okay, yeah. So
give me a chance to. I'll run down. I got a list of some fun facts and trivia that we'll get into in just a minute. But yeah, go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, but like that. The whole entire scene, though, when he like rips his head off and his head's kind of dangling there and stuff, but like he's like still alive and he's still moving, and that's like pretty creepy stuff. Yeah. So, but like then she takes like a big spear and like spears him too. Like he does like all of that too. Yeah. But like by the end though, so like near the end of the movie, you just have Ripley, but then you also have Jones the cat. So they're like just kind of like her like only semblance of like having something that's like still alive and on her side. With her,
but like every time I watch the movie, I'm just like, did you really have to go back for the cat, Ripley? Like I get it, but I also don't get it. I'm like, you got like 10 minutes to get off this ship and get away. Like just get away. I'm sorry. If you can't find this cat, screw him. Get off the ship and keep moving.
Yeah, right.
Just go. Like that's that cat's fault.
I would have gone back for the cat. Absolutely.
See, I hate cats. If it was a dog, it's a different story. But I hate cats, so like screw the cat. I'm out of there. I'm allergic to them anyway. So
feel like, so I feel like I saw this. Okay, My friend Ron says it did not exist or it did not happen. Okay, remember? So she puts Jones in that like
the container or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
The box.
Mm-hmm. So does she leave Jones in the box, or does the alien take the box with the cat in it?
No, she's always got, she's looking for Jones at the end of the movie. She puts him in the box. She runs to the lifeboat with the box. But the only thing I was concerned about when I rewatched it is she's like flailing around with this box. Like it's getting thrown all over the place like this. And I was like, that cat inside must be like, dude, what are you doing? Because literally there's a moment where she's got it like this. And she's like, yeah. So
like
no.
The cat's even still alive.
Yeah. I'm surprised the cat didn't have internal injuries just from the running to the ship. Yeah, it's
But I do like though, like when she initiates the whole self-destruct sequence though, that like she well, it's not just some kind of button like in a lot of other horror movies, like a big elaborate
thing. It's a process,
in it, and you gotta like like twist it around because it's like it's not something so easy that anyone could just walk by and like slap some button and then you're on self-destruct mode. It's like a whole process because you're literally destroying an entire ship here. So like you think it would be a little bit of a process, like, or at least a little bit like more than a simple button,
No, Jordan, I literally had the same note. I was like, hey, that's kind of good that it's like a 10-step process. It's not just I just press one button and it's like self-destruct, so somebody could, when they're drunk on the ship, just like press the button.
Yeah, right.
It's like we gotta open up this panel, we gotta turn this key, which opens up another thing. It's like an escape room, and then we gotta pull this lever, and pull this lever, and then it opens up this box, and then you gotta screw this thing in, and screw that thing in, and then finally hit the thing, and then it still gives you 5 minutes to turn it off, even if you change your mind.
Right.
Right, because probably like if you want to change your mind, you got to go through the whole thing in reverse, maybe. Who knows?
Well, she's trying to at the end. She's trying to stop it. She's trying to put the things back in,
right?
And, put the thing back in, but she just doesn't do it in time. So now it's point of no return. You got to get on the lifeboat and get out of there.
Right. Yeah. But I think probably like the climax though, I'd say that of the whole movie though is like at the very end when she's on the escape ship, and then you see that reveal the alien that's like hiding there. You see it like in the strobe light, and you see the full reveal where it's just going after her, just like like it's just like war between her and this alien, and like really the only chance she had is just open up the hatch and try and suck it out into space. I mean, she didn't really have any other choice. So yeah.
Hey, but that alien is a survivor, man, because it's not over when that hatch opens. The hatch opens.
Like it hangs on.
The alien gets sucked. It hangs on. It gets shot. Then shoots its tail and hooks on to the thrusters of the ship. So it's still not over. So then she has to turn the thrusters on and burn him for like a minute before he finally lets go into space. Right. Like that thing is a survivor, which is like the coolest thing. It's not just so easy to where I just open the hatch and he's gone. Like that thing. Those things will hang on for dear life. And it's one of the coolest things about the end of the movie that I had kind of forgotten about is like, it's not so simple pressing a button. Like she's got to fight for it. You got to earn killing these aliens, man.
And she I love how like you don't quite, at least I didn't quite realize why she turned on the gas or whatever to get the alien kind of burn a little bit once and then twice to kind of get the alien to move. Kind of hurt it initially, and you think, okay, it's hurt. No, it's not hurt. And then you see her like in this chair or whatever, and she's like trying to get it to come towards her. Like, I don't think I quite realized like why she was getting it to where she was until all of a sudden you're like, oh shit. Okay, that's why.
Yeah.
And then
because if it was still on the wall, he could have hung on and just wouldn't have moved. It would just lashed itself onto the side there. So she had to get it to where he was out in the open, just standing there before it could, not make sure it wasn't lashed on anything before you open that door. So yeah, it was a process, not just opening the thing and she's strapped in, but like he could have strapped himself in. I mean, those aliens are smart, man. Like we'll see the intelligence. Like, they're not stupid. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I do have to say. How sexy is Sigourney Weaver before she gets into the whole suit? They were like kind of with like a see-through shirt on and stuff. I was just like, dang, like I didn't expect that.
She got the smallest pair of underwear you'd ever seen. That's only like this tall. It doesn't even cover half of her. It's really weird.
Yeah, right. So I was like, ooh,
is that standard issue for Weyland Yutani, or is I don't know?
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. That is military issue.
Well, then when we find out who runs Weyland-Yutani and Prometheus, that it's a horny old Guy Ritchie, then I guess, or Guy Pearce, excuse me, Guy Pearce. I guess it kind of makes sense.
Guy Pearce. Yeah.
But like, so you guys want to hear some trivia now that we're in the end of the movie? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, dude.
Oh yeah, so like I'm just gonna say like the movie pretty much wraps up where like she's just kind of floating aimlessly through space, and you don't really know like if what's gonna happen. We find out in the second movie, but yeah, if you have some trivia, let's hear some fun facts.
Let's roll. So like I mentioned this earlier, the original title was called Star Beast when it was kind of in the script phase, which would change later. This movie could have been starring Meryl Streep and Harrison Ford. It almost happened, but Harrison Ford did not want to make another space movie. Yeah, when he was approached for it because of Han Solo and the success of that. And Meryl Streep was originally cast as Ripley, but her husband at the time, John Cazale, died, the guy from the two Godfather movies, Dog Day Afternoon, and she was just not in a good headspace. So she actually would have had the role had she accepted. So we could have had a gun-toting Meryl Streep in these movies, maybe. And so it's kind of interesting. The original alien was translucent and see-through, not black. So which would be kind of interesting to where you can like see his ribs and see the bones and things like that. Now the ash goo was, I guess, what we'll call it when he's kind of the head is just sitting there, is a mix of
the white stuff.
It's a mix of pasta, caviar, milk, and glass marbles, and cold water.
Weird.
Yeah. So really,
did he actually
really
swallow that?
No, when he's spitting up stuff, it's just like colored water. He's just spitting everywhere and things like that. But and then when his head is just kind of hanging there, it's a combination of like milk and like onion rings actually just kind of hanging out of his head.
What? Really?
I'm not even joking. Onion rings. So weird. It's just kind of all gooey, weird stuff. Yeah. So we talked about we talked about when Chris brought up I kind of dispelled the myth about the chestburster scene. I was going to talk about that, but we already talked about it. Now, the guy in the alien suit, his name is Bolaji Padejo, and he was a student in London. He was an African student in London, and he's 6'10". So they got somebody who was almost 7 feet tall to play the alien. And he never did any other acting work. They just plucked him off the streets. He did the job in the movie, and he never acted again. So that was just a one-time thing. They just needed somebody really big, like almost like somebody looked like a basketball player or something, almost like the Predator, how they got Kevin Peter Hall, who was nearly 7 feet tall, to play the Predator.
Yeah, kind of like the guy
parallel there.
Who does Chewbacca now? Like they got like Joanna like Sumatopo or whatever you say his name. Like he just does that. Yeah. He's like really tall and hasn't really done much other acting.
Yeah. So like I said, it won an Oscar for special effects and it was nominated for art direction. But it was not nominated for Best Picture or anything else, really.
Should have gotten Best Actress. I mean, come on. They should have, I think.
We'll talk about that in Aliens, where Sigourney Weaver for Aliens was nominated for Best Picture. Well, deservedly so. But anyways, and then the Xenomorph has all of 4 minutes of screen time in this whole movie. For all of them, you see it, 4 minutes,
an hour and a half,
1 hour and 55. Yeah. And then the thing I talked about earlier that I alluded to is we've got a strange coincidence with some of the people that have passed away from this movie. The 4 main primary cast members that have passed away in real life in the same order they go in the movie, which is very creepy. So John Hurt passed away in January of 2017, and he's, of course, Kane, the guy with the face hugger on. Right. September of 2017, we lost Harry Dean Stanton, who was Brett, who gets taken out in that sort of cargo area with the chains. He's the second one to go. In June of 2020, we lose Ian Holm because technically Dallas did not die, as I mentioned to you earlier. When Dallas gets taken out, he's not dead. So, so Ian Holm, Ash, in June of 2020 was the next to pass away in real life, followed by March of 2021. Very recently, we lost Yaphet Kotto, and he, of course, dies after Ian Holm. So, yeah. Because he dies in the struggle with the alien trying to protect Lambert, and then Lambert gets it. And then technically, Tom Skerritt gets the flamethrower, and that's it. And then Ripley's the last survivor.
So can I add one other additional trivia fact?
Yeah, hit me.
Remember the giant art piece you talked about? The giant alien sitting in the chair that they come upon, basically? Okay.
Oh, the space jockey?
Right, the space jockey. So initially... because Hollywood apparently had never done like a prop or anything that big, they almost did not want to greenlight it at all. Mm-hmm. It was almost not greenlit. Yeah, and that was actually destroyed when someone apparently left a burning cigarette on it. It was burned up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. That would have been like kind of a disaster if that thing burned up.
But
so it was burned up.
They did repurpose when they were shooting the movie, the space jockey thing. The inside of it had another set inside of it that they used for some other scenes. Yeah, because it was so big, they just made it kind of hollow, and then they made stuff. And they had other settings inside of the space jockey because it was so big.
Oh,
mm-hmm.
That's cool. Yeah. I didn't know that.
You make use of the space, man. That thing was huge. So, I mean, you just make use of it. I mean, and that goes to another thing where you talked about it was very expensive. Initially, they started out with a $4.5 million budget at the time, but the shooting script was so good before they started, they doubled the budget to a whopping $9 million at the time.
Whoa.
Which in today's money, is about $50 or $60 million. So, I mean, pretty significant at the time. Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty small. Like if you compare it to today's time, yeah.
Of course, yeah. Where you got movies that cost $300 million in today's money, you know.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Look, I'd like to.
So that's mostly what I have for Alien.
Well, like I'd like to kind of see how much the last Alien Alien Covenant was to make. I don't know if that was the most expensive one or what. But
I don't know if it was the most expensive, but I think Prometheus and Alien Covenant each bare minimum probably had $150 million budget. I mean, bare minimum.
Yeah. Well, so I got a few little facts that I came across that you didn't mention. So if you notice the little chest like burster scene, like the alien that like pops out, it doesn't have any eyes. So like for some reason they just didn't put any eyes on it. They used an actual like the sculpt of an actual human skull for that. So like so the heads kind of made it look more human, but they didn't give it any eyes. So I guess maybe that something like develops later on. I'm not sure, like how it actually works, but yeah. So they didn't have that, and then also too. So I guess was originally 20th Century Fox almost didn't even make the movie. They didn't want to make it because they just had Star Wars come out, and the movie kind of ends on like a real light note, and like it just kind of like I don't know, just not as like dark and grim as Alien was, and so Alien just so gruesome and violent for the time that 20th Century Fox almost passed on it. So like I'm really glad they didn't pass on it, but they almost did.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have the sci-fi fantasy, hero's journey and a lightheartedness of Star Wars. It's not a movie you're rooting for the people and they're just kind of fighting the good guys and the bad guys. It's just this isolation horror piece. Like I said, it was very unique at the time. I mean, now you look back on it and you go, well, yeah, there's been movies like that since then, obviously, but for the time, yeah, it was very, very unique, and yeah, it was a little risky. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then there's one other thing about Veronica Cartwright. So when she was originally cast, she thought that she had gotten cast as Ripley until the first day that she showed up on the set, and then realized, oh no, you're actually not playing Ripley. You're actually going to play this other character, Lambert. And so she kind of just went with it, but like she thought that until the first day she showed up on set. So that'd be kind of a surprise. It's like, surprise.
I think they were fitting her. They started fitting her for the clothes that Lambert wears, and that's where she realized she was playing Lambert instead of Ripley. Is what I think.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Hey, but she almost makes it to the end of the movie. She makes it into the third act, well into the third act. So I mean, she still gets a pretty decent amount of screen time. I always forget she kind of makes it almost to the end of the movie because I had remembered her for whatever reason being one of the people that kind of dies in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. But go ahead.
Can I say one more that apparently neither of you guys mentioned either? And this one actually really surprised me. So when they were first writing the actual like story or the script and everything else, there were no like we didn't, the gender was kind of androgynous, so it could have been either man or woman. And we're not initially planning to cast a woman for the role of Ripley. It could have been a man or a woman. I'm glad that ultimately, of course, they went with her for the role because she was perfect. But I thought that was interesting, like right up.
Yeah, well, I know the producers said they thought it might make the film stand out a little bit more to have a woman survive the movie because, you go through the movie thinking that Tom Skerritt, he's the captain,
right?
He's the kind of handsome, sort of looking guy of like I was going. Well, he's got that 70s handsomeness with the full beard and the shaggy hair, but you think it's going to be he's the one in charge. You think he's going to be the one to take out the alien, obviously, because stereotypically it had been the guy, and Ripley, even in the first half of the movie, is really kind of a secondary character. Like she's there, but she's not in charge. She's just kind of along for the ride, and it takes that turn. Obviously when Dallas dies, it's kind of a surprise. It's almost like Psycho. Like oh my god, they just took out the captain.
Oh
like,
yeah.
What? Yeah,
she has to kind of step into that role, which I think.
Yeah, she got to step up.
Right, but the only other thing that I had, but did you hear that they changed the original ending of the movie? So they're originally going to have the Nostromo explode at the very end. So they're going to have it blow up, but they decided to change it and just add a few more scenes and then have Ripley escape onto the other little ship. But originally they're going to have it just explode, and that was where it was going to end. But obviously, I don't know the sequel very well. Yeah.
Or she would have died with the explosion taking down the alien. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
and then we wouldn't have Ripley in all these sequels. That's for sure.
Right. But yeah, so that's all I have for the fun fact. I don't know if you guys have any like memorable quotes from the movie. I mean, I just kind of brought up a few little quotes, but there's nothing.
Alien is not the most quotable movie on the planet as much as Aliens. I could rattle off the whole script for Aliens as quotable for me, but it's but Alien. The only one I had was I like when Ash is when they're just talking to the head of Ash. And he's kind of explaining his actions and kind of explaining things when it's just the head, and he's all slimy. And he says, I admire its purity. He's a survivor, unclouded by conscience, remorse, or delusions of morality. Kind of sums up the...
Right, yeah. Well, my favorite moment are when Ripley just kind of takes charge, which is like, yeah, we're gonna kill it, then we're gonna blow it the fuck out into space, and she just like starts screaming like these like random things, and I'm just like, yes, like seriously. So like just like those are like really like my favorite things is like when she just really takes charge, like when she's screaming and you're like, yes, like she needs to take charge, and like that's the main character we want to see, because kind of like you said that for the first half of the movie, she's kind of a secondary character until she decides, like, well, I got to take charge here, or else we're gonna die. So, so yeah, but yeah, like nothing that like really just like
there's not
a whole lot.
It's like super quotable. Like we'll have a lot more lines from the second movie for sure, but but yeah. So, but basically, yeah, that'll do it for the first Aliens movie. I don't know if we want to give it a score out of 10 now, or we could wait until the end, but we could do it now if you want.
Give it a score out of 10 now, yeah.
So, well, for me, if I had to give it a score out of 10, I think for a pure horror movie, like I'd almost give it a 10 out of 10 for me. But there's an overall kind of horror sci-fi, I might give it a 9, just because I kind of feel like I wish that they had a little more to do. But that's just really just like super nitpicky. Like it's not really like a huge thing for me. So I think overall I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. Also, for the reason that I think that the second Aliens just blows the first Aliens like out of the water. Like it's so much better to me. So like I got to give it a 9 for me.
Mm-hmm.
But
so I would definitely give it a 10 out of 10. As I said, so I remember this movie scaring the hell out of me when I was younger. I had to probably see it when I was like, probably like maybe 14. And I said, I think I looked at it with a hand over my eyes. And there were still those moments for me where there were like genuinely tense and scary moments throughout this movie. And it's like, as you said, the things like you're talking about, like you're rooting for these people to stay alive, and it's just like brilliant set pieces. You feel like you are almost a part of this crew, and I couldn't imagine what it'd be like to have to scare down this alien. So for all those reasons, I would definitely give it a 10 out of 10.
All right, Austin, what do you think?
Yeah, I give it a very strong 9 out of 10 for me, only because the movie we're about to talk about for me is like a perfect movie. It's a perfect 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And again, only because when I'm sort of doing those kind of ratings, and I don't like to do them a lot, but when I do it, rewatchability is a lot for me. To me, I have to be in the right mood to sit down and watch Alien. I have to be, because it's more of a straightforward isolation horror movie. It's not, I just have to be zoned in on it, as opposed to Aliens, which I could put on any time, any day of the week, catch it on TV and at any point and just watch it. Like Alien, I want to sit down, watch the whole thing front to back, and like really get zoned in on it. So it was very, very strong. It's of course extremely well made. It's a phenomenal horror movie. But just for me, I have other horror movies that are like way more rewatchable to me that I can put on just about any time. So again, I love the movie. It's not saying I don't like the movie. I love Alien. It's a great movie. But the movie we're about to talk about is like just that extra notch above for me personally.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so we'll just kind of jump right into Aliens. So, I mean, I'll just kind of I just start out with a couple kind of general facts about the movie. But so Aliens was released on July 18th, 1986. So probably about like what? It was about a little less than 10 years after the first one. So
7 years after the first movie. Yeah,
7 years. So I mean, I don't know if they're even originally planning on a sequel. Maybe they weren't. It just took them so long to get it to like look where they could actually be able to release it, or if they kind of thought about it later on. I don't know, but
I can talk about that later in my trivia
sure.
bits a little bit if you want me to go into that.
Yeah, for sure. And then for the second one, most people consider it more of like a sci-fi action movie with some horror elements to it. So like a little less horror, a little more action. And on the runtime of the movie, so this Aliens is 2 hours and 17 minutes. And then so I got to do the little tagline game again. So I'm going to start with Chris, because I don't know if you know the tagline for the second movie, Austin. But there's a few kind of general taglines people use. I don't know if there's really one that's that one. But
I don't think there's a definitive tagline for Aliens, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Like I think they kind of came up with ones later, but it wasn't the same as Alien with the space no one can hear you scream thing.
But if you had to throw out a tagline, like could you come up with one on the spot that you would like think would be like fit it well? I don't know if you can think of one, but like just
here we go again, bigger and better, or whatever.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. Right. In space, we still can't hear you scream. I don't know.
Well, like that's actually pretty close because we listed a few here. So like one of them says, "This time there's more." So that's one. So it's like bigger and better.
Yeah, but I can't imagine that was the actual tagline, because that's just like that's such a generic thing for a sequel.
Yeah, right.
Like, this time there's more of this. Like, okay.
Yeah, right. Right.
Well, they had it.
I was yeah.
Well, they also had.
No. Just there's no tagline on the poster, which there is the tagline in the original poster for the first movie, and usually like the tagline will be on the poster. Like in Men in Black, it's on the poster. Saving the Earth for the scum of the universe. Stuff like that. Right. There's distinct taglines. And like I think Aliens, there's just like, it's Aliens, bro. Here we go.
Right. They had a few other ones that they just kind of threw out. I don't know if they just can't. They kind of came up with them after the fact. But they have like this time it's war, or they have there are some places in the universe you don't go. So like there's that too. So like just kind of some like generic ones. Nothing really like super.
But see, that one doesn't work because they're going back to the place of the first one where all the shit went down. So like that one doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And then like in fact they set up a colony. They set up a colony where the first stuff went down, which is even a worse idea.
Right.
Kind of like saying like everything that these people did is like contradicted to the first movie, just stupid or something, just kind of saying that,
Right.
But
by the way, I did look up the original movie takes place in the year 2122. just for so actually next year it'll be 100 years from now. Maybe we'll be having space truckers discovering aliens, and and then obviously we get a time jump here of 57 years, so it's actually 2179 in this movie.
Yeah, right. Nice. So, and I have kind of the synopsis from Rotten Tomatoes again that just after floating in space for 57 years, Lieutenant Ripley, Sigourney Weaver's shuttle is found by a deep space salvage team. Upon arriving at LV 4-426, the Marines find only one survivor, a 9-year-old girl named Newt, played by Carrie Henn. But even these battle-hardened Marines, with all the latest weaponry, are no match for the hundreds of aliens that have invaded the colony. So that's pretty much the synopsis. And then we got the Rotten Tomatoes score. I don't know if you guys looked it up, but if anyone wants to throw a guess for the critics score, was maybe Chris. Like, what do you think that the critics gave the second Aliens? So the first one got a 98. What about Aliens 2?
I mean, I feel like this is more like an action movie, so I feel like more and more people would see this movie. So I feel like it's got to be like 100.
Well, it's pretty close though.
97.
We got 97%, so went 1% down, which is basically I just consider it pretty much the same.
Well,
and then the audience.
You want to talk about why, or the one negative review it had for years and years and years, and that kept it from being 100 even at the time?
Sure.
Why?
The one negative review out of all the publications when it originally came out, the reviews were overwhelmingly positive, was Gene Siskel of Siskel and Ebert, who did not like the movie. And he gave it a thumbs down on the show. Thumbs up, one thumbs down.
Really?
Why? What was his review?
He did not like it. He felt like it was complete overkill. You can go back and watch watch the TV review or read the actual print review. He just felt like the whole thing was just overkill. We just threw everything at the wall. It's just too much. It's too much of this. It's too much noise. It's too much da 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 da. He just preferred the kind of simple. I could see it. Like when I watched it, I was like, of course he said that. And like even Ebert, who gave it 3.5 out of 4 and really liked it, his initial review kind of out of the theater, like the same day when they filmed the show, he was kind of like, I know it's good, but it's like, oh my God, I got so like tensed up and like it was so many emotions. And like he got almost too into the movie is kind of what he says. And which I thought was a good thing, that you're like super invested in the movie and want to see what's going to happen. But he's just, what he said in his print review, which he printed a few days later, was, now that I've kind of had a chance to sit with the movie, like I can recognize how amazingly proficient it is and how good it is technically and all the performances and everything, and it kind of came together. So that's why he gave it a 3.5 out of 4. But yeah, Gene Siskel for the longest time was the only negative review.
Damn. Okay.
And certainly.
It's something, right?
Well, yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because sometimes like there are certain movies out there that like you maybe got to see like a second viewing to really take it all in and to really appreciate it more.
Well, that's like what I talked with Leonard Maltin when he kind of reassessed it, because he didn't really like horror movies. And then when he finally went back to it like 20, 25 years later, he kind of appreciated the movie for its technical qualities, for how good it was, how well made it was. And he could get over his own being a wimp, so to speak, and just kind of realize that it's an amazing movie.
Right.
Well, it's like for me when I first saw Avengers Infinity War, when I first saw it, I actually hated the movie. I thought that it was total trash. Just like they're just going to kill all these characters. It's just like a complete and total cop-out. Because we already know that they're all coming back. A lot of them have sequels planned. They're all like we know that they're not going to stay dead. They're just doing it for whatever reason. I don't know. Like it's just a total like waste of time to even kill these characters. But then I went back and saw it a second time, and I had to stop and think that like that's the way comic books are. Where comic books will like kill off characters all the time, and they'll bring them back, and then they'll like die. They'll have different versions of the characters. They'll do all these different things. So that's just the way the comic books are. So how can I expect the movies to be really any different? I mean, they're going to be pretty similar. So yeah.
If you had seen Empire
movie.
Strikes Back when it came out in 1980, you would have been like, man, I hated that movie. Man, Han Solo was like in carbonite and like Luke just got his hand chopped off. Like, what a terrible movie.
Seriously,
you would have been
what the
heck? Darth Vader pretty much won that movie. Like, what's going on? And like, if you didn't know there was another movie on the way that would like solve all these issues, you would have been like, man, I hated that movie. Like, screw
Oh my
that
gosh,
movie.
yeah, you're right. They didn't know that. It's
Did
so
you?
weird
I
to
mean,
think
well,
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even after seeing Return of the Jedi, like I always go back and think like Luke and Leia are actually sisters. Then they kiss. That was really awkward. Why'd they do that?
Sisters?
Stupid, you know? Yeah,
They're both
right.
girls?
Yeah, I'm like okay, but it all makes like it makes sense like in a way that like maybe they didn't have everything planned out 100%, and like I don't know, like it's just movies.
Despite what
like,
George Lucas said, he didn't have everything planned out. He can say he had everything planned out. He didn't have everything planned out.
No.
Luke and Leia are sisters.
I'm sorry.
Dude, that is what we should put on a quote for you, Jordan.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
But the brother sister. I think I said the brother part like kind of soft.
No,
They're not.
you said
they're brother sister.
You said sisters.
Well, they're brother sisters. Yeah. But,
Luke is Luke came out as transgender, so they're all sisters now.
Yeah, right. Like it's a new woke version of Star Wars, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like the Wachowskis.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh my god.
No. But
anyways, back to aliens.
Yeah, right.
Back to aliens.
Getting back to aliens. So I was just gonna just go over the main cast. I'm not gonna read through the whole cast, but just some of the main ones. So you have Sigourney Weaver, obviously again playing Ripley. Then you have Michael Biehn playing Corporal Ricks, which is actually my favorite. I mean Hicks, sorry. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is actually my favorite character in the movie. That's why I have my little nickname Jordan Hicks today. But then you have Carrie Henn playing Newt. You have Paul Reiser playing Burke. Lance Henriksen as Bishop. Bill Paxton as Private Hudson, which I found his character like both annoying but also really great, which we'll get into later. So, but and then you have William Hope playing Lieutenant Gorman. You have Jeanette Goldstein playing Private Vasquez. Al Matthews playing Sergeant Apone, which was one of my other favorite characters. I really like her character. But you have Mark Ralston as Private Drake. Rico Ross as Private Frost. Colette Hiller as Corporal Farrell, and Daniel Cash as Private Spunkmeyer. So
Spunkmeyer.
Yeah, so there's a lot more.
Spunkmeyer we're leaving.
Yeah, right. So there's obviously a huge cast of this movie, like 3 times as big as the first Aliens movie. So I'm gonna kind of stop there, but there's a lot more, obviously. But yeah, we can kind of get into it and kind of talk about some of our favorite scenes, what we like, what we didn't like, kind of pros and cons. So yeah,
the whole movie. Bye. Have a nice day. See y'all later on.
Yeah, right.
Whole movie's perfect. It's goodbye.
Every scene is great.
Great.
So I'll just go for there.
Yeah, right.
Of course not. No, we'll talk about it, of course.
2 thumbs up. All right, see you. Yeah. But like,
well, can I stop you for just a second? Can I ask you Can I ask you guys which version you watched of this movie? There's 2 versions.
The theatrical.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is the extended cut that's like 20 minutes longer.
Uh-huh. So on the one I have, I do have the the extended or the director's cut, which came out years and years later. And my same friend was like, "You need to watch the director's cut instead. It's a much better version of this movie." Yeah.
See, I disagree, and I'll explain why. I may be in the minority here. I'm in the minority who prefers the theatrical cut over the extended cut, and I'll explain why. So, and really, if I could have a cut like the Pez cut, where I include one of the particular scenes into the theatrical cut, that would be like the perfect version of the movie. So to kind of lay it out, there's like 3 kind of big scenes that they include, or at least big set pieces, and then a lot of it's just little bits of dialogue here and there, things like that. But there's 3 main scenes that they added. So the scene that I like that is in the extended cut that I wish was in the theatrical is when she's still on the space station in the beginning, and she has that conversation where they look up what happened to her daughter. We find out she had a daughter, which we didn't know. That she had a daughter back on Earth that was like 7 years old. and they look her up and show her a picture of when she's an older person now, when she was in her 60s. And the picture they show in the movie is just a little trivia bit. It was actually Sigourney Weaver's mom that they used for the picture. But anyways, she finds out that she was older and that during the 57 years, obviously, she was floating in space. She grew up, and I believe she got cancer and passed away. So she learns that she had a daughter that passed away while she was sleeping. So
that's what it is. But she gets like all emotional, and she's like she died when she was like 60-something years old. She's like, I promised I would be there for her birthday or something like that.
Yes.
Okay. So and I like that it then ties in the end. At the end of the movie, Newt calls her mommy at the end, and it kind of comes full circle. So if I could have that scene, and it's not in the theatrical version,
did you ever have a daughter or something?
Yeah, if I could have that 2 minutes added to the thing and nothing else, it would be like a perfect movie. So the other two scenes that they had, both of which I think are completely unnecessary. They didn't have a scene where you see Newt and her brother and her family on the colony. There's a whole sequence where they're on the colony, and the people of the colony discover the eggs and stuff. And it's like they're going out for a mission. And you see one of them get the face hugger on them, and you see Newt and Timmy, the brother, doing like a hide and seek thing, running through the vents and stuff. Like kind of doing this, crawling through. But to me, it takes away from the mystery of the movie and then discovering what happened to the colony. I think it takes away a little bit of that.
Too much backstory.
Instead, it's too much backstory as opposed to just finding Newt, kind of all disheveled, crawling around the vents, and then sort of them poking around the colony, sort of piecing it all together on what happened. It's too much. I don't like it. So I think it just takes away from the mystery. And there's another sequence. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. It's just
you were saying. Yeah, so that was one of the scenes that he liked was the backstory. Which, as you're talking about it, that would have given away, it would have kind of ruined the surprise.
Mm-hmm. I like when they just discover Newt when they discover her. You know what I mean? And they're poking around, and they get to the colony. It's already messed up because we know the eggs are. When we get the dialogue about Burke, when Burke talks about they've had a colony, they're set up, and you see Ripley's face, and she's just like, "What? You set up like a colony there? There's like families there? Like, are you nuts? Like, there's eggs out there? Like, this is gonna go to shit." Like, she knows it is, and that's all you need to know. And then when they say they've lost contact with the colony, you put it in your head. You know exactly what happened. You don't need to see it happen. You know exactly what happened. So to me, I don't like that. And then there's another sequence when they're recovering all the stuff from the crash ship when they try to get evac and it crashes. When Farrell crashes it, they say they also recovered these turret guns. And there's a sequence where they set up these turret guns in this hallway, and the turret guns are gunning down aliens as they're trying to come down the hallway. But it's just a completely unnecessary scene that just kills the momentum of the movie. It just it literally has no effect on the movie whatsoever, as opposed to just them cutting to them. Let's repair the barricades. Let's just seclude ourselves. Let's hold down, hunker down, and just do our thing. Like, you don't need to have this extra fight when we just came down from them getting their asses kicked in the nest. Like, you don't need another fight in between there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, to me personally. So if I could make the 2 hour and 19-minute cut with the mommy scene added in, or the daughter backstory scene, I would add that and exclude everything else. I don't watch the special edition. I usually watch the theatrical cut.
Okay, well, I'm glad I watched the theatrical cut then.
Well, it's if you're curious enough, go watch it, because again, it's still Aliens, so you can see it. But just to me, when I watch both, I just prefer to go back and watch the theatrical, because I don't like the colony backstory stuff. The turret thing kills the momentum. Like, you have to get back into it after that. There's things like that. I just don't like it.
Yeah,
but it's just me personally. So I might be in the minority online from what I read. People
but
are like,
I also feel like
stuff,
because you've seen this movie so many times, because you're such a huge fan, I feel like you have a pretty good perspective on it. Okay, that's like if anyone was to ever redo the movie Casablanca, for instance, I'd be pissed. It's one of my favorite.
Hey, we made an extended cut with just some extra whatever scenes of just extra screen time of this or that and the other. Hey, we show what's his name, Humphrey Bogart, what he did beforehand or what you don't need it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
You don't need it. They
hint
stuff. At it, and that's
And again, when they're discovering the colony and they're poking around, you get the little bits of dialogue here and there. If you're invested in the movie, you can pick up everything you need to know about what happened. And then everything you get the backstory. And to me, it's even more horrifying because she talks about, it makes the scene when we don't meet the parents, when she says, "They're dead, all right, can I go now?" She's got that it's already, she's trying to cope with the fact that her family is gone. We didn't need to see her family. We assume that she's got parents that love her. She hints at her brother, things like that. And there's even a continuity error when she talks about nobody calls me Rebecca except my brother. In the scene, the brother calls her Newt. Doesn't call her Rebecca. So it doesn't make any sense even that way.
No.
So it's another reason I don't like that scene.
Well, it's like, have you ever seen on Saturday Night Live where they do the Casablanca with the alternative ending on it? Like, you have to check that out. They do like a crazy way for like Rick to like die at the end or something. It's like weird. It's like yeah. It's like they do it in like a pretty funny way. Like it's just for a joke. But
I didn't do
that. But so I watched the theatrical version, but then I went back and I just watched all the scenes just to kind of see what they were. So I went online and like tracked them all.
If you want to go online and watch them as a curiosity, I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's what I did.
To me, the movie flows better with the theatrical version. Just to me, it doesn't need to be the 2 hours and 34 minutes or whatever. I think the 2 hours and 17 that it is, it's like perfect. It's got great pacing and it works just like it is. But yeah, if you want to watch them, they're available online. Obviously, you can see them.
Yeah, so just getting to some of the best scenes. So like when the movie starts, some of the scenes that I really like is when Ripley first realizes that she was in hypersleep for 57 years. Everyone she knows is now dead, and then she keeps having flashbacks of like all the original events from the first movie. She's having like nightmares kind of thing. So she keeps waking up and like she has a little flashback. Like one of the chest busters kind of popping out of her. When I first saw that, I was like, "Wait a minute! Like they're gonna have a chest buster just pop out of her." I'm like, "What's going on here?" But then I'm like,
no,
"Oh, okay,
fake out, nightmare."
Yeah, fake out. So
yeah,
I was just like, "Oh, they're gonna kill her off." Well, like I didn't think they'd really kill her off, but I'm just like, "All right, they're gonna have this," and then find some way for her to survive.
How about a way to open a movie?
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. Because it could have gone that way for sure if they wanted to do the thing that a lot of horror slasher sequels do, where they kill off the main character that survived the first movie in the first 5 minutes of the second movie. They definitely could have gone that way. You know what I mean? But they don't do that, luckily. And but I think it goes to what Burke talks about later when he says, "I read your psychological profile. You wake up in sweats every night, from these nightmares." And she's literally has like a PTSD type thing where every time she closes her eyes, she sees this alien or she sees the space that sees things blown. It's like gotta be horrifying. And especially, what if you had gone to sleep for 57 years and had a nightmare for 57 years because she's not waking up? Like if you just get a luck of the draw, throw of the dice, and you're stuck in a nightmare for 57 years. Holy crap, right?
No,
I like the little line where the lady comes on and says, "You want something to sleep?" And she goes, "I've slept enough." And I was like, "Yeah, amen, right?
Yes.
It's like I slept enough. Yeah, right. It's like, all right, fair enough. Yeah, but like, I don't understand why people don't listen to what Ripley has to say, because he's like saying like, we just get out of here. We need to nuke the whole entire place. But like they just like won't listen to her. They even strip her of her license to like operate these ships and everything, and just like nobody's listening to her when like she's the one that they like originally encountered these things in the first place. Why don't they listen to what she has to say? But nobody really wants to until later on in the movie.
It's that corporate structure of like, where there's no evidence of an alien on the lifeboat we picked you up at, where it's strictly your testimony, and all the people that were work for the company are now dead, who were part of your crew, and we didn't find anything. So like, we can't really believe you. So like, yeah, it's just that it's all that corporate mentality that we all deal with as like blue collar workers of like, no, like this is the way. Like I know what I know and I saw what I saw, but it's like, oh, but we need this. We have to back you up with this. Da 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 da. And it's one of those. I feel her frustration where she's like, did IQs just drop sharply in the 50 years I was asleep?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Like, does nobody listen to reason?
I love that moment where she's dealing with the corporate, like the head of the company.
Suits.
Yeah, the suits.
Yeah, right.
She's in this. She's in a boardroom with these suits, this meeting, and she's like, as you said, she's trying to explain what she's seen, and they're just dismissing her right and left. And she finally like confronts this guy, like as in the meeting. And then, of course, she goes back to her room and won't leave.
Well, and again, I sort of a smidgen. I have a smidgen of understanding from where the suit guy is coming from, because he says we've had a colony on there for 20 years and nothing has happened. And like, so from his perspective, it's like, well, wouldn't have something have happened in 20 years? And she looks at him like, are you nuts? You mean you've had families sitting there terraforming this planet? But from his perspective, to at least a little bit, sense. I go like, it makes sense because they set up a colony there, nothing's happened, they haven't discovered anything. So I get it. So again, there's no evidence to back it up. But like, she did warn them, you know, and then when shit goes down, it's like, now you want me to help you? Or you no, like, you're on your own for this one. Like, goodbye. You know, I'm gonna go work on the docks or whatever she's gonna do, you know?
Yeah.
Yep. But like, so like, you kind of cut to all the Marines waking up, and that, like, I just love all the banter between all the soldiers. Like, they just have like some like really awesome one-liners. Like, they're like waking up, and you see the one guy, I forget the name of the black guy, but he has a cigar ready to go. Like, right when he wakes up.
That's Sergeant Apone. Immediately puts a cigar in his mouth as soon as he wakes up. He's got it in his hand, ready to go.
Yeah, right. And then they're just like instantly trash talking. So they're like, they say that Ripley saw an alien once, and he's like, well, whoopee fucking do. I'm impressed. And he's like, hey,
Vasquez, you ever been mistaken for a man?
Yeah, for a man. Like, no.
Have you?
There's a little fist bump before fist bumps were actually cool. They're like doing it back then.
And like her, and you see the chemistry that they all have, like Drake and Vasquez, you can tell they have somewhat of a connection. It's not romantic, but like, just like, it's just too bad. And she like slaps him in the face. There's a little bit of a backstory actually that was in the shooting script that's not in the movie, to give you a little context to their relationship. You know, because they both have the same guns, like the big giant guns and things like that. Their backstory was that they grew up in kind of a slum together on Earth, and they were in and out of juvie kind of together, almost like they're just watching each other's backs. They kind of grew up poor, and then they were drafted from juvie into the Colonial Marines and came up in the Marines together. So they have this like backstory from when they were younger, that they have a connection. It's not a romantic connection. It's just like, I watch your back, you watch my back my whole life. You know, they've got that camaraderie. So, and you can tell that. I mean, you kind of get that from the movie a little bit, and just in their gestures and things.
Well, they're pretty close. I love that one moment where he's kind of giving them the what's going on, and they're like, you know, is this another bug hunt? Chris says a bug hunt, but there's that moment where one guy says to Vasquez, you know, something about illegal alien. He goes, "Fuck you."
Is your aliens? You thought they heard it said illegal alien and signed up. Fuck you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love that moment.
The bug hunt, by the way, people have in the novelization, they talk about the bug hunt stuff was when they were setting up colonies like this and terraforming, they would send in the Marines first to dispatch of any creatures that might pose a threat in the immediate area or on that world. So it was literally like a bug hunt. They would go in and kind of assess any dangers, or, you know, hunt down any creatures that might pose a threat to their colony, any indigenous creatures. So that's why he says, is this going to be a stand-up fight or another bug hunt, you know?
Okay, they've been sent in gone in before, and they've cleaned out other areas.
Yes, they've cleaned out other creatures, and that's why they're skeptical of like, oh, she saw an alien. Like, they just think maybe it's like some dog thing, or, you know, some like a bear, you know, some animal. You know what I mean? It's what they think they're going to face. It's like some kind of animal.
That makes more sense.
Right on. Yeah. So, well, then for me, like, before I even knew that Bishop was even an android, they do the little knife game where he's like doing the knife like in between his fingers, and he's like going so fast. I'm like, whoa, what the frick? And then he's like screaming. He's like, he's like, stop it, man, cut it out, man. Whatever. It's like,
and that's actual Lance Henriksen doing it that fast, so fast they didn't need to speed up the film. He practiced it for 3 months and did the whole thing. And the day of the shoot, he had the idea, instead of doing it to his own hand, to put his hand over Bill Paxton's hand and then do it from there. So Bill Paxton's reaction is kind of in character, very genuine, of him just kind of screaming the whole time. Yeah. Whoa! So, and again, but it also goes to the laws that the robot has to obey about not allowing harm to come to a human, which is why he places his hand over Bill Paxton's hand, to where he ends up, remember, he ends up cutting his finger a little bit, like you kind of see him dripping off the finger. He cut his hand instead of cutting Bill Paxton's hand. And so it kind of goes as just a smidgen, a little detail that you might not notice on a rewatch.
Cool. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Hey, have I said this movie's really, really good? By the way, like this movie's really good.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty good movie, right?
Good one. Yeah, right.
Hey, I love that moment when they find out about and I think I feel like you're probably getting ready to say this, Jordan, but like, I love the moment where like they're like, clearly he's too good. Clearly, what the sergeant's too good to eat with us.
Oh yeah,
Lieutenant Gorman. Yeah, he's too good to eat with the rest of us grunts. Yeah, because
right.
Lieutenant Gorman feels like he's fresh out of like an officer school. You know how like they have like manager schools for like different corporations where literally like they farm out managers for different companies. Right. You'll get somebody in a restaurant that never had practical experience in a restaurant and all of a sudden is running it. It's what it feels like is he's had all this simulated stuff. He's a by the books guy. They kind of make fun of him because he has no practical experience like all this crew has. And he's the new guy being brought in and they don't trust him, or not that they don't trust him, but it's like, who is this guy who's never even been in combat to tell us how to do our job?
Right.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
And I love all the different like vehicles and like the different like the weapons. Like so like they have some kind of tank that looks like that's like straight out of the Dark Knight, like the like tumbler, like the like tank thing. That looks pretty cool. Like they got some cool vehicles from back in the day,
That was actually a tow vehicle that is used by British Airways to tow planes. It's a very slow-moving vehicle. It's a thing they got at these airports in London, like at Heathrow, and they kind of outfitted it with like this futuristic shell, and they actually had to strip it of a lot of its parts to make it faster because it was those vehicles are designed to go very slowly because they're just made for towing. So they actually had to strip that thing like almost to the bones, almost to the frame, and then kind of rebuild it from the ground up. So that's why it looks so cool. Because it was a practical thing that they kind of rebuilt. But yeah, the design is just very cool. Like it's futuristic, but it's not too much. Like you could see stuff like that coming down the pike, years from now. Like it's futuristic, but it's not. They're not shooting lasers. They're not doing anything crazy. They're still shooting bullets. They're still throwing grenades. Like it's still very practical. It's just a little more sleek, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And there's that great moment where Ripley, of course, you realize like because of what she's gone through before, she's obviously distrustful of AIs. She doesn't trust them at all. So there's that great moment where Paul Reiser's character, I believe, is the one that's talking, and he's like, yeah, we have an AI on board, and he's the one managing things. Am I getting that right?
You never said anything about a synthetic on board. I prefer artificial person myself.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yes.
And he explains the backstory about Ash. He's like, oh, it was the A2 model. He goes, oh yeah, all the A2s were a bit twitchy. That can't happen with our new implants. And she's like, bullshit. You're still an android, basically. Like I don't, just stay away from me. I don't trust you. She makes that perfectly clear.
Right.
And
again,
tray at him. But it helps in the movie because, again, we don't trust Bishop for most of the movie because he's always giving these sort of side looks, and you don't know if he has the same programming because he's still working for the company. Is he aligned with Burke? Is he going to listen to him over the military? Yeah. And even literally up until almost the end of the movie, we still don't know the outcome of what he's going to do because he has to come back and save her on the ramp at the end. So, I mean, we literally almost to the very end of the movie, we don't quite trust Bishop, especially if it's your first time seeing. I mean, Jordan, you saw this movie for the first time. Did you trust Bishop? Like, it's a kind of a good question for somebody who's has a fresh perspective on the movie. Did you kind of trust him? Were you leery of him? Like, what did you think?
No, I didn't really trust him until the end where she getting ready to go out to the Queen Hive, and so you kind of see some other traits and different sides of him, and then we started to kind of think, oh yeah, like maybe he's actually a pretty good guy. Like what he's saying actually makes sense. And then like at the end, obviously you see him save the girl and all that. But yeah. So but for the first 3/4 of the movie, no, I didn't trust him. No.
Well, I mean, again, if you just watched Alien, of course you don't trust the artificial person. They always have an ulterior motive. And again, throughout the movie, like Ash, he's kind of making these side comments like, oh, well, I have specific instructions from Burke to keep these specimens, for cryostasis to take back to the company and blah, blah, blah. And he's not saying I'm going to do it. He just said, oh, I've he told me this thing, or, it's an interesting,
Right.
I'm studying this species. I'm kind of doing my analysis. Like,
Right.
he's doing what an android would do. But again, because if you just watch Ash do what he did, he's kind of doing the same motions, kind of not, but like, you don't know.
Very Hitchcock, yeah, because we don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah, right.
Massive red herrings.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and of course they do thankfully turn out to be, but yeah.
Oh. Yeah. But like basically, like I think the next like scenes that we just see them going down to the planet. So they like get down there and look, it's already raining, so they're just running around in the rain, and they're like seeing all the carnage and all the destruction, seeing everything that's like going on. It's a pretty cool scene that they set, though. Just like all them just kind of running around in the rain with the vehicles, with their weapons, all that stuff. So it's like that's like a really cool.
Well,
set.
again, it's why I don't like the scenes in the extended cut, because man, when they're just exploring and going through the hallways, and you're seeing equipment everywhere, and there's holes in the grating, you're like, oh my god! And you know what it is? It's the acid that burned through the different levels. I mean, we know what it is, and Ripley might know what it is, but because she recognizes certain things, but like the Marines still don't know what they're dealing with. They don't have a picture of it, and we're just kind of seeing like half-eaten donuts that are rotted out, and hamster cages, and all kinds of weird stuff.
Yeah,
and in the lab, and then we see that in the lab they've got the two face huggers that are still alive. That they've been, so you kind of get that they've been
having a giant tank or whatever.
That maybe the face hugger maybe got to one of them, but like maybe it didn't for a little while. Like maybe they were studying them for a little while, and trying to explore it, and they were in contact with the company behind the scenes, like, hey, we got this weird thing going on. Like, you can infer as much as you need to infer without that original scene, which is why I don't like that. You get as many clues as you need to kind of piece it together in your head. So I mean, but it's very creepy, it's very isolated, and then of course we meet Newt, because we get the great motion trackers, which like those sounds that the motion tracker makes. And then from then on, just anytime that thing goes off, you're like, oh my god, what are we gonna see next? What's going on? Here we go. And it's kind of a fake out, because then we meet Newt, who's great, by the way. Carrie Henn is so good in this movie.
Yeah, so like I really like when they bust into the lab and they see that the floors are just kind of rotted out from all the acid, and it's like 3 or 4 stories down, and then you see.
I'll be right back, guys. I apologize. Keep talking.
Oh no,
you're good.
You're good. But you see Bill Paxton's character, like he just kind of walks up, he like spits it with the edge. Like see how far down that it goes. And he goes, quit screwing around or something. But like he's the one that actually did it though. But he's just kind of just like trying to ball bust with them or whatever. Yeah. But
Bill Paxton's character is just amazing in there.
Yeah, so like he's really great, but at the same time too, like he's like pretty whiny though. He's like, man, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna make it, man? What's gonna happen? Oh, like, we're all dead meat, man. So like like he's. But at the same time, like he brings like sort of like the comic relief, I guess you could say. So like he's like
comic relief
kind of like
and kind of realism. I feel like the kind of what they're feeling. Like it
exactly
makes the movie feel a little more grounded. Sure, we're dealing with sci-fi stuff, but I mean we're dealing with human beings. We're going into this world, and as he was kind of talking about earlier, they're fighting these different things.
Yeah, right.
So his freak out like almost makes it more intense and makes it more real for me as to why like this is bad.
Yeah, right. Well, so like I was just like kind of saying like with Chris for a minute here, like there's a scene where they come into the lab and they see all the floors rotted out like a few stories down, and then Bill Paxton character just walks up and like spits down to see how far it goes. He's like, quit screwing around or something.
Well, because somebody nudges him towards the thing, and he's like, quit screwing around, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that, and also I had to mention the perspective you get as well throughout the movie with everybody having their little shoulder cameras is really cool, almost like a found footage type thing, you know. And we get kind of intercuts between what they're seeing on the cameras, with opposed to like what we're seeing with the actual movie. Obviously, it makes for an interesting dynamic, kind of a more surreal, realistic dynamic, especially as we're kind of getting to when they first go into the nest and they have their first big battle with it, and the kind of panic and the freak out, and you get to see like all of their perspectives on everything. It makes it for an interesting dynamic, and they also have like the lifelines of everybody as they're dying. They're all flatlining. Like it's really crazy. Like it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, like, and I think that was like one of the first movies to like do stuff like that, because they like do it in a lot of other sci-fi movies where they have everyone's vital signs on a computer and they start flatlining. You know, I've seen that in like different movies, but like probably Aliens was maybe one of the first to do it. So yeah. But yeah, and then so like so I wasn't totally sure. So like when they go into the lab and they see like all these aliens and like big giant tanks, like they see one that's moving around, like is that a face hugger or is that some kind of weird alien? Like it's
one of the face huggers from the eggs. Yeah, and that's why you see a lot of them, other ones that are already dead. So either it was a thing where they were experimenting on, because they actually see the logs that some of them had gotten the face huggers on them, like maybe some of the first group that went out and explored them, and that they cut them off, and then they both died. They talk about how the person and the specimen both died when they did that, which is why you can't cut it off, because it'll kill the person. They become attached like in the throat and stuff like that. And they've been experimenting on it for a little while, and obviously maybe it was a thing where maybe one of them busted out of the chest, and maybe they had a few of them contained, you know, at some points here and there, and were kind of messing with them, but maybe one eventually just got out, and obviously that's when the chaos kind of happened and set up shop. So you get inferences as to what happened, but he talks, Bishop very briefly is like looking through the logs, and it's like subject died when they removed the thing from his face, you know, things like that. So they've definitely been testing and playing. They've been playing around with it for a little while, playing with things they don't understand.
Yep. And so the next thing that we see, we find Newt hiding in like a little compartment, like in the lab kind of area, and like you're right, like she's a great character played by Carrie Henn, and so like we can kind of see instantly that Ripley's been through all this before. She knows the craziness. She's like, they've been having all these nightmares. So she instantly has this connection with her, where she wants to try and protect her. And I also think that like having the scene where she finds out about her daughter maybe gives her even more of that connection.
It's so much to the movie, which is why, again, if I could have like my cut of the movie that adds that in without taking it in, I would, because then she latches onto her. She knows how to speak like a mother and how to deal with a child, you know, much like Gorman is later trying to, you know, he's like, what happened to your parents? Tell me now, focus. What happened here? And she's like, dude, She's like 9 years old, bro. She's been through a traumatic last couple of weeks. Just like, relax, man. Like, we'll get the story eventually, you know? And it's one of those things where, Carrie Henn just has that look on her face. You can tell she's been through so much just without speaking, you know, like how much she's been through, just hiding out. We get to see a little bit of her hideout, how she's smart enough to have gathered like some MREs. She's got food, you know, she set up her little place there where nobody can get her, you know, and just to imagine what she's been through is good. Carrie Henn is so good. It's hard to imagine this was her one and only acting job ever. Like, she literally did this movie and that's it. And she never acted again. So it's something. Yeah. Right.
And I love the line where she's like, I'm Ripley. Like, don't you think you'd be safer with us? Because you can see that like she's a little like kind of scared. She doesn't really know what to think. And then she's like, it won't make any difference. Like, just like like kind of a creepy thing that like she feels like just as like scared and unsafe, whether she's with them or on her own or like wherever.
To her, what's 12 more people when she's watched 150 some odd people get taken down by these aliens? You know what I mean? When you look at that perspective, what's these 12 more? So they got guns. So what, right? There's probably like hundreds of these creatures running around. She's like, it's not going to make any difference. You're going to have the same thing as everybody else. I want to go off and just hide in my spot again, you know?
Right. Yeah. So, but then they pick her up to take her with her, and they're kind of making their way through all these corridors. You see them like going through the nest, and then they get to the like point where they want to start using guns, but then they find out that they can't shoot because if they rupture the cooling system, it can make a thermonuclear explosion, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So they can only use like flamethrowers. So like you see them kind of gather up all the clips. They don't want to give them all the clips, but they have to,
much like the first movie is the people are like, why don't they just shoot the alien? Well, these guys have guns. We got to figure out a way why they can't just blast away at all these aliens. Right. We come up with this conceit that they're in the middle of a reactor. So if they rupture some like cooling system, like it's going to blow up like a nuclear bomb. So it's another kind of genius way of like how we get around, these guys, just because realistically, you have these dozen or so Marines. If it was a straight up fight, as many of the aliens as there are, they do have the superior firepower. They could probably take them down. But the reason they win is because you're dropping them into this, into their own nest, and like they're out of their element. And also, again, they don't know what they're dealing with. The movie has a lot of allegories to Vietnam, where in Vietnam, our troops had the superior firepower, we had the superior training, but we were in their environment playing, and they beat us with guerrilla warfare and using the environments and using inferior, kind of lesser known tactics. So it's the same reason they're blending into the walls. They know how to use the camouflage. They know how to come out of nowhere, draw them in. We don't know if, they don't work with the infrared because they're blending into all the hot reactors near them. So it's very interesting, that dynamic, to where they have the superior capabilities and the firepower, but it's not enough when you don't know what you're dealing with.
Yeah, for sure. And so like basically they like come up on like one of the nests so that they see everybody wrapped up in the cocoons, and so that they basically have to like torch on the whole entire wall of like people that are still kind of half alive because they're trying to attack them, so they pretty much have to get rid of them all. So it's kind of one of those crazy moments where they just torch everything, and then basically like that's when all the craziness happens. So you see
all hell breaks loose, baby.
Right. All hell breaks loose, and so the xenomorphs popping out left and right, and they're just dropping like flies one by one. You see them trying to torch them, and then they're getting torched, and they're falling off the edge, and
then the magazines, the bullets explode because they had them on one bag, and that takes out one or two of them because there's a big explosion because all the bullets go everywhere, and everybody's freaking out. And then Drake and Vasquez, of course, kind of cheated, and they reattached their guns with their little spare parts, and so they're blasting away, and Gorman's freaking out, and Ripley's freaking out, and do something, Gorman, you idiot, do something, get him out of there,
get him out of there.
And that's one of the first moments of the movie where she's like, much like the first movie, it's time to take charge. It's time to do something, like she's like, I don't care what I got to do. Let's get in there and get them out and do something. So it's all hell breaks loose. And just like Hudson says, I don't know if you're taking tabs, but we just got our asses kicked, pal. And they certainly did.
Right. Yeah. He's like, I don't know if you're keeping up with the current events. We just got our asses handed to us. We're doomed. We're screwed. We're sitting ducks or whatever. Yeah. But basically, like they're just trying to get out of there. Like one of the lines that I like, where like Ripley's like, where she's like, I say we get out of here and just nuke the entire place from orbit. And then Hudson's like, fucking A,
man.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
I love that. So, and like I really should know who Paul Reiser's character is again.
Burke.
Okay. Yeah. So I love that moment where Burke's like, well, guys, we really can't do that. It's an expensive establishment. We can't just go around just nuking everything. And she goes, well, I think it's actually a military operation, so they have the less say. And he says,
Corporal Hicks is in charge, I believe. And he goes like, yeah, I say we get out of here and nuke the entire site for more. But he's like, well, yeah, because you start to see Burke's true colors in that scene, because up until then he's still been, like he said, he's been kind of an okay guy. He's along for the ride. He's with the operation. And even when Ripley's going in to the facility when she takes over the car, he pushes Gorman out of the way and it's just like, you had your chance, Gorman, like let her do her thing. So like you're still kind of with him. And then of course the corporate colors come out and he starts talking about, well, this facility has a significant dollar value to the company, and you go, oh, here we go, you know what I mean? Like, okay, so what's
the dude's all about money.
Like
we cares about
next we got to capture one instead of kill him. Exactly. Right. So that's when you start to kind of turn on his character, initially. Not that you weren't suspicious of him anyways, but that's when you kind of do the full on like, bro, are you serious? Like, no, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And then
such a great moment.
and then I like when Ripley's like, so basically Hicks would be in charge now because he's the next in the chain of command. You see him kind of have like a little kind of smirk smile, kind of like yeah, like I'm the next in charge kind of thing. Like he gets kind of cocky
it's also
about it.
a reluctant thing because his character is very quiet for most of the movie. He's not really like stepping up. He's not being very boisterous. Hudson's kind of the more boisterous one. You had Apone, who was very talkative and chatty. Assholes and elbows, people. They ain't paying us by the hour. All kinds of stuff like that. And things like that. So Hicks has been almost, again, like Ripley in the first movie. Hicks is kind of almost a secondary character. You don't notice too much because he's kind of there, but he hasn't said a whole lot. And now the movie again takes a turn to where Ripley's taking charge, but again, this sort of minor character is being forced to step up and kind of take command, alongside Ripley, and kind of to bring out that leadership, that we know he has, but it's that stoic leadership, that kind of almost subtle, just kind of taking charge, but not being boisterous about it.
Yeah, he's like kind of a badass.
He's just a silent badass,
Yeah, he is a silent badass.
He is, yeah.
Yep.
Like one of the other scenes too that really gets me is like when their transport vehicle gets taken down out with the xenomorphs, and it's like they're like only escape off the planet. So like you like see it coming, and then it just like hits into like some rock and just like explodes, and like it's just gone. And so you have Hudson, and he's like freaking out. He's like, this is just effing great, man. What the fuck are we supposed to do now? That's it, man. It's game over, man. Game over,
man. Game over. I almost busted out that shirt because that's one of my other ones. Is Bill Paxton, and it says "Game over, man. Game over."
Oh, yeah.
So
that's amazing.
And for anybody watching, the one I have right now is the M41A pulse rifle. The schematics of that one. So because the M41A awesome. Pulse rifle and the M40, I want to introduce you to a personal friend of mine. This is the M41A pulse rifle with 10 millimeter and an over and under 30 millimeter pump action grenade launcher. So
yeah.
When she's teaching her how to use it.
Yeah, like, that's what I'm talking about.
Teach me how to use it.
Teach me everything.
I want to know.
It's your idea. I mean, at that point, you need everybody you can shooting guns, and we've never seen Ripley use a gun. We've only seen her using like the flamethrowers and stuff and the grapple gun. So it's actually a significant thing. And obviously, she kind of becomes. She has a little trouble at first, but she eventually becomes a natural at it. Remember the first time she tries to use it in the second attack, she still has like the safety on. She's like fumbling with it for a second, and then it finally kind of bursts out and shoots a little bit. So, but at that point, it's like you need everybody shooting, you need everybody fighting. Everybody you can get. Right. We've whittled down the cast at that point down to Burke and Gorman, and then as far as the Marines go, you got Hicks and Hudson, Vasquez, and then you got Ripley and Newt. I mean, we whittled down from about 20 people to about 7 people, and we're halfway through the movie. So, but it's a good thing, we get this whittling down, and then you finally get a core group of characters, and then at that point you kind of pick them off, one by one, like a horror movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then like shortly after they see their a ship go down in front of them. She asks Hicks, she's like, so if we wait here for rescue, how long would it be? And he's like, it'd be about 17 days. And then
17 days. I hate to tell you, we're not going to last 17 hours. Those things are going to come in. They're going to get us. They're going to shut up, Hudson.
Then,
this girl lasted longer than that with no weapons and no training. He goes, why don't you put her in charge?
Yeah, why don't you put her in charge, man?
So, see, when you find him annoying at first, but then when you go back and watch the movie multiple times like I have, you grow to appreciate, because as Bill Paxton put it, Hudson's primary role in the movie is to be a pressure release valve, to where like you have these really intense scenes, but his freakouts are kind of the not a comic relief thing straight up. He's not cracking jokes, but it's like that release of tension, like, dude, we're screwed, like we're gonna die, and like, because at the audience you're having the same thoughts, but you're not audibly saying them. He's the one of the group that kind of has those freakouts, and everybody else kind of stays calm and does their thing. So you have to have that in the group to kind of convey the panicky nature of the situation they're in. So it's for a purpose, Jordan. I know he probably pisses you off at first, but like it's for a purpose in the movie.
I love that character because I was talking to Jordan, kind of like when you kind of walked away, that really for me made it more real. That for me like grounded it in reality. It's like, oh shit, we're all fucked.
Yeah.
Like,
right. You kind of
try to get
realize
off
the gravity of the situation. Yeah. But
and I love Bill Paxton as an actor anyway, so I'm like, okay, you can.
Yeah, Bill Paxton's the man anyway. So, but it's a perfect role for him because he does similar things in other movies, but this is him at his most freak out, sort of. So
right. So like one of the things,
and then this is when we kind of get to. I'm sorry, and I was just gonna say this is kind of when we then get into Burke turning into a complete corporate asshole and to really showing his true colors when he literally tries to impregnate and basically kill Ripley and Newt. Like, and then you're just like, dude, you've gone full on. Like, there's no toe in the line anymore. You took that jump.
Yeah, then like Hudson's like, "Oh, you're dead meat, man. No,
you're dog meat, pal." So
dog
waste this fuck right now.
I wanted them to fucking kill him horribly, but at the same time, when he finally got his own, I was like, "Yes, yes, son of a bitch." So so one of my coolest moments for me, I gotta kind of brag, okay? So I went ahead and tweeted out to Paul Reiser, who's one of my favorite actors. Okay. And I said, man, I just finished watching Aliens 2. Your corpo bad guy was amazing in the movie Aliens. You're one of my favorite actors as it is. Well, he actually quoted my tweet and said, "Thank you very much for your kindness." And I'm just like, I'm not worthy, Paul Reiser. Thank you so much.
Right. He doesn't get. Paul Reiser does not get enough credit, or the character of Burke, I should say, does not get enough credit for being one of the better villains of any movie. He really should be on these lists because it's a different type of villain, because he's not trying to take over the world. He's not like a killer who's killing people over and over again. He's not like a Hannibal Lecter type guy, or he's not trying to take over the universe. He's just thinking his greed takes over every decision he makes.
He's just kind of a megalomaniac.
And it's one of those things where it just shows that the regular people can be villains if they have ulterior motives, and he doesn't get enough credit for being one of the greatest corporate slimy weasels of all time.
Yeah, I went down a rabbit hole, and they have a badass a NECA figure with him with one of the aliens. Nice. And they also have a really cool resin statue with him. And he's sort of standing there, and you see him carrying the holder with the face hugger in it. It's so badass looking. It's about $45 and I really want it. Yeah.
Nice.
But as you said it, like he just is like, the villainy is just perfect. That's what is just so, you're like, oh, okay, now this is what he's going to do, and this is how far he's willing to take it. You suspected it, but at the same time, I was like, okay, he's not going to.
No, but when he pulls the trigger on it, when he actually sets them up to get impregnated or whatever, and when Ripley kind of comes up with her theory and it makes completely sense, it's just like,
yes.
And even all the Marines are like, oh, so that's what you're planning to do, because they know the corporate thing, the money, and all that kind of stuff. They totally buy into it. It's like, of course we're expendable, just like the first movie. The people are expendable. The company wants the specimens. They want the money. They want the research. They don't care about these grunts. Just these Marines. They don't care about them. Like, who cares if they come back? Like, they told the corporate guy, if you can get one of these things back here so we can study it, you do it at any cost, and we'll back you.
Yep, exactly. Like, one of the things that like I get a little confused on. So that their ship.
I'm sure I can explain whatever you're confused on. I'm sure I can explain it.
so they have the ship that blows up. That's like one of their main ways to get off of the planet. But do they have a main kind of station where Burke's kind of hold up at? Are they is he on some kind of ship or some kind of space station? Or
so at the beginning of the movie, we see that there's literally that space station orbiting Earth. There's a main setup, and that's the Weyland-Yutani space station is where she's at the beginning. When she wakes up, that's where they take her, and that's where he starts. They take the Sulaco, which is the name of the main Marine ship. The transport ship is called the Sulaco. Within the Sulaco, there's two of those APC ships, those kind of sub-ships that take them down to the surface, which is why they're able to remote call down the second one. Bishop's able to remote pilot the other one. So so they just took It's a company. It's a marine transport that was docking at the main space station back on Earth, which is why they have to go into hypersleep. Because I want to say this planet's probably like in another system. You know what I mean? That's why they have to go into.
So they were able to get off the planet to get back to that main space station.
Yeah. So then when they get off the planet, the ship they get back to at the very, very end, when she has the battle with the power loader, they're back on the Sulaco. They're back on the transport, the marine transport ship.
But like, where's Burke at though? Like, where's he at?
What do you mean? Where's Burke at?
Burke's in the ship with them.
I mean, Paul Reiser's character isn't that Burke or like?
I mean, he dies, but you know, like he wasn't with them.
Well, look, where's he at though?
He ran away from him and locked him out. Remember?
Yeah.
Well, no, because like after they see the one ship blow up and get destroyed, they make it back to him. Like, they have like a second ship, like you just said, to get back there to where they're like talking.
So no, they go where they go back to after the ship crashes. They go back to the colony operations. They go back into the colony building in a place called operations where they hold up. It's just like the main computer area of the colony. They go back there because it had the storm shutters and stuff. They can kind of seal themselves off in this operations / med lab. So they're just back in the colony. They went outside to go meet the ship, and then when the ship crashed, they're like, all right, we better go back inside before they come out. You know what I mean? Like, we don't get stuck outside. We're just gonna go back in for now and like hold up in the colony. So like that's where they go.
Okay, that makes sense. Because
then they start gathering up supplies because like Newt knows where all the they start bringing in like MREs and like all kinds of supply. You know, they start bringing in like food and stuff. Like they're gonna hold up in the operations area and in the med lab, and just like hunker down until they can get rescued. Because obviously he said it's gonna be a while, but if they can seal everything off and kind of hunker down, they can maybe survive.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Like basically after that kind of when like Ripley gives Newt the little tracker and like says like, I promise I'm never gonna leave you, you know, and like gives her the little things so she can always know where she's at. And then like basically so like eventually the xenomorphs, they like breach the little bunker because like eventually you just see the xenomorphs popping out of everywhere. So like you see
they go through the ceiling, through like the ceiling, not these air ducts, but they literally are crawling through the little space in between the like grating and the ceiling. There's like a space of like, you know, so high that they're able to go through there, and it's not something they saw in the blueprints, you know. It's just something that they missed. There's no way to really barricade that. It's like if you go into a store, you know, a grocery store, you can push up the drywall at the top, but there's always like a space in between. You know, it's kind of the same thing. So yeah, they like block off all the air ducts and the air vents and the stairwells and everything like that, but they're able to crawl through there and kind of find a way in because that turret scene, they come through the regular hallway and the turrets blast them and they have to find an alternate route in, and that's when they get into the ceiling. Okay,
because you have the scene where they're like looking on the radar and they see just like xenomorphs coming from every direction. They're just descending upon them, you know, like pretty much.
Yeah, they're coming. Just have all crawling in the ceiling.
Yeah, they're like coming out of the ceiling. It almost looks like they're like coming through the walls and like somewhere. Or like air ducts, maybe that's what it is. It's
well,
like
they're very crafty aliens, and they're not very large. I mean, like they're tall, but they're very skinny. You know what I mean? They can fit in those small spaces. You know what I mean? Like they can crawl. Like they've got those hands where they can hook on things and crawl on the gratings and things like that. So yeah, they're able to find their way in. Like you said, they kind of find their way in, and we have that sort of second battle when the emergency lights go on. It's all red. You know, it's a very cool kind of setup. You know, very creepy, and that's when kind of Burt gets away. And really cool. Gets in when he locks himself in, and everybody's kind of, it's almost like a last stand almost, you know, like this is pretty much it. You know, they breached it and it's time to go.
It's like, well, then you see like Burke, like he keeps locking himself in further and further, but not opening the door for Ripley or any of those guys. So they're like pounding on the door, but he won't let them in. Kind of that just shows that like he's even more of an a-hole doing that. Like it just keeps escalating of like how much of an a-hole this guy really is.
His plan, I'm assuming his plan is just to get back to Bishop, who's out, you know, trying to call the ship down, and he would go there and just be like, well, everybody died and I escaped, you know, let's get out of here, that sort of thing. So that's his like plan at that point. He's like, because they already know they're either going to kill Berg or they're going to take him with them and put him in the brig, and like, you know, they're going to tell him what he did. So he's screwed if he does that. So at that point, it's like all bets are off. I'm just going to try to get out of here, that sort of thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so like, is that like Like I think basically when you see the xenomorphs kind of take off with Newt, they kind of just like grab her and like.
Well, they take down Hudson. Hudson goes down. He goes on fighting. Get him credit. He goes down fighting.
Yeah, right.
He goes on protecting everybody else. So motherfucker, guy. Oh, you want some too? Come on, die, you son of a bitch.
Right.
And then Vasquez goes down in the little air chute. But she has one of the most badass moments in the movie when the alien kind of jumps her from above her, but then she presses the alien up against the wall with her foot and blasts him in the head with her sidearm. It's one of those cool, like, badass little moments. Like, Vasquez she's a badass, man. Like, she's the other awesome, like, female of the movie. She's so cool.
Yeah, she is.
And then Gorman goes after her. Gorman gets a little redemption, because Vasquez very much despised Gorman for the earlier stuff. She keeps giving him the looks and the little she wants to kill him basically, but then Gorman goes back for her and tries to save her, and then they both get trapped and they do the self-sacrifice, and blow up the grenade. So we whittle our cast down to 3. Newt goes down the shaft and she gets abducted, and there's a freak out, and Ripley wants to go after her obviously because they don't kill her. They cocoon you up. He's like, I believe you. We got to get the hell out of here. Come on, they're coming for us.
Yeah, that's when they kind of realize that there's got to be like something at the center of all this, like a queen or something that's like that pretty much controlling everything. So that they like pretty much figure out that there's the queen. But like one of the scenes that I really like, so Ripley decides she's gonna go after Newton and go and save her, and then they have a little scene with Ripley and Hicks, where they're like kind of on a first name basis now. Whereas like it's Dwayne, it's like it's Ellen. Like, all right, go get her, Ellen. And it's like for me, I'm like, oh, like so like possibly there could be a potential for a little family here, Ellen, Dwayne, and Newton. I hope it happens. That'd be awesome.
Yes. So I thought the same thing. It felt very.
You might be very disappointed, and don't ever watch Alien 3 then. That's all I'll say.
Definitely not happening, huh? Yeah.
No, Alien 3 doesn't exist. We just move on.
So don't watch Alien 3.
Well,
yeah.
I'm a defender of Alien 3, but let's just say if you're really invested in these characters, don't watch Alien 3. That's the way I'll put it. But she goes after the queen, and it's time to mother versus mother almost. It's time to throw down in the nest. Yeah, she straps up the dual guns with duct tape. Again, the future always has duct tape, man.
Yeah.
It never fails. Even NASA uses duct tape. And the
apocalypse.
The actual visual of the queen is just so cool because it's 1986. It's a practical effect, a giant, like this giant puppet, like a creature. Just a quick behind the scenes thing. It took 15 people to operate this thing. It's nuts. It's so intricate. It's Stan Winston who did the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, just to give you a little context for that. Wow. It was amazing. And you just get this like a great little back and forth with them not even saying anything, just coming to an understanding like, hey, let us go, or I'm going to torture your little babies here, and she kind of calls off the guards, the little workers. Yes. And then they betray each other and then they throw down. It's so great how little is spoken, but how much is said and done throughout that scene with almost no dialogue.
Well, like one of the scenes I gotta mention too, like even before that, when she's going down the elevator, that's like a really cool scene when she's like on the elevator and it's like building all the tension because she's like going down to where the hive is, and she's like making sure that her flamethrower's set and everything's like exactly the way that she wants it, and then you have the robotic voice going like saying like approaching third level, approaching second level, or like whatever, and then like for me, I always thought that like that whole elevator sequence could be like a ride at Universal Studios where you like ride the elevator down, then you approach the like queen, and then you could have a little battle with the queen or like whatever. I thought that would be like a perfect thing for like some kind of theme park ride. That'd be really cool.
Well, and again, she has a little moment there where she's not completely like confident in what she's about to do. She's scared. Where she literally takes a moment, she closes her eyes, she takes a couple of deep breaths. She's kind of prepping her mind for like what she may have to encounter, because she doesn't have 10 Marines behind her backing her up. Like she's literally on her own. Like this is it. And she doesn't know how many she's going to have to face. She's geared up, but like, is she going to have to face a swarm of 50 of them? Is she even going to find Newt? She's got only so much time to even find her. So it's like, and she's following the signal, and they even kind of tease that she gets to the locator, and it's just sitting in a pile of goo, and she kind of has this moment where she's like, she has to face the fact that maybe she's gone, and then of course Newt's wonderful screams throughout the movie. She's a great screamer, and it alerts to the presence. So and she's able to save her. But it's we get that. We get a little throwdown with the queen. She's blowing up the hive, and then the queen. We see that these aliens again are intelligent. She catches the elevator just like Ripley did. She figures it out.
Yes.
I mean, it's a crazy moment.
She's going up. Yeah, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we get the reveal of like you talked about with Bishop, like, oh my God, he left us. Holy crap, like this is it. And then he scoops her up, and you have the greatest false ending in any movie ever, where everything's going to be fine, the place blows up, they're all safe and sound on the ship, and then we get the best like extra climax that's ever been put to film, in my opinion. Like, isn't that like where he gets stabbed like through the chest, and then like another alien pops up? Or it's the queen. I'm not sure if it's the queen. No, it's the queen. Yeah. The queen, when the ship bumped into the ramp, the queen was able to stow away and grab onto the foot, like the landing gear, and stow away inside the landing. These things are smart, man. They stow away themselves in the crap. Like it's not over yet. And it's not over yet. And you're like, oh my God. It's because everything kind of settles a little bit. Bishop's always like, I'm sorry I left you. It was just getting a little unstable. You did good. And then, they're kind of chit-chatting, and then boom, right through. And you don't know if it's a chest burster or what it is, because it kind of hits the chest, and you don't see the tail go through for like a second. Right. So you're like, did he get impregnated or whatever, or did something happen? And then you finally get that. She runs off. Newt does what she does, which is crawls around in little small spaces like she's been doing. And then you get the greatest callback in the history of movies when the door finally opens and she's got the power loader, dude, and she's got basically a mech suit. And you're just like watching the movie, even to this day, watch this movie, you're just like, fuck yeah, get her, dude. Let's go. Let's go. Oh. She delivers the line, get away from her, you bitch. You bitch,
It's like one of the best lines.
I'm just like, let's go.
Yeah.
I don't know why I still thought, and of course I know that Ripley doesn't die, okay? I know that, all right? But like as she's spitting acid at her, as she's getting her tail around her, like into the loader, it's like, you can feel the tension of Ripley. And Ripley's just like, okay, I got to power this through and kill the queen.
Yep.
There's no do-over.
Yeah.
No one even brought up a little thing of the pop figure, like while we were doing it. So you got
man.
I'm so excited for that.
So that you can pre-order now for
I haven't pre-ordered
for Funko Pop.
Cannot wait.
But it's such a cool callback because you've almost forgot about those loaders at the beginning of the movie when she's kind of driving around and she's like, I could drive that loader, and you're like, oh man, those things are really cool. But you think it's just like a piece of future tech that they're kind of showing off, like a cool thing. And then man, that door opens and you see it and you're like, oh yeah. Fuck yeah, like do it, man. And she's even in the odds, man. She basically has like a mech suit. It's awesome.
Yeah, mech suit.
And it's like mech warrior versus queen, and they throw it out. She's bitch slapping the queen, like just smacking her around and all that. It's great. It's so good. It's just so much fun. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jordan.
Yep.
But I mean, okay, Jordan. Okay, let me pose this. Remember, again, you watched this for the first time. So when you watched the movie and they escape in the ship and all that, like off the elevator thing and all that, did you think the movie was over? Did you know this extra climax was coming?
Well, like I wasn't really sure because like I'm always like, I don't know, like it's not over till it's like absolutely like over. So like, but then I saw the like scene where the queen grabs onto the elevator and I'm like, oh shoot, like I kind of hoped it was over. So I was like, all right, we're gonna have a happy ending here. I'm like, oh, like crap, it's not over. So we got a whole other scene going on here. But like after all that, the whole mixing thing, so you have like literally where Newt's about to get sucked out into space because they open the little door again, and then Bishop's able to grab onto her, even though he's like half a body now, but he like grabs onto her, and ended up saving her. I was just like, yes, that like completely makes up for Ash. I'm like, screw Ash. We have Bishop now. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So
even as half a man, he's more man than Ash ever was.
Right. Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
That was such a powerful moment to me. Like you have that heartfelt moment with Bishop saving the girl. You're like, oh.
Yeah, he's still hanging on. She's like Bishop, just like hanging on to him.
Yes.
And like I said, once she blows him out, she goes. Newt goes over to Ripley and says, "Mommy," and just like hugging her, because like she did because think about it. Ripley did exactly what she said she would. She said, "I'm not going to leave you. I'm not going to leave you no matter what, and I'm not going to let anything hurt you." And she fulfilled her promise, because I'm sure Newt thought, "I'm in the cocoon, I'm screwed, like this is it," and like she fulfilled her promise. She didn't leave her, and so like that's the person. She's like, dude, if I'm going to spend any time with anybody, Ripley's my gal, like you're it,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good moment.
Yeah, like the moment when after all of that, Bishop kind of looks over towards Ripley, and he's like, "Not bad for a human," or whatever. So
yeah, right.
So like he acknowledges that too, so that's cool. And then like basically that's pretty much like the movie's almost over. They have the last scene where they kind of have like a little sentimental kind of mother daughter moment almost, where she's like, where she has the line, where she's like, "Can I dream?" And then Ripley's like, "Yeah,
yes, you can dream. You can dream.
I think we both can." Yeah,
I think we both can. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it just ends, and that's the end of the movie.
That's it. And the rest of the Alien franchise doesn't exist. The movie ended with aliens, and we all live happily ever after, right?
Yep, we'll live happily ever after, right?
Just like after Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade hits the credits, they arrive off in the sunset, and that was it for Indiana Jones.
Yep, right. Yep, that was it. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know if you have any fun facts or
about some trivia. Yeah, you want some fun facts and some trivia? Let's do this. Now that we're kind of at this, this movie was filmed at Pinewood Studios over in London, much like the original one was filmed in England as well. Now, the crew that James Cameron was working with was a British crew for the most part, a British unionized crew that he got very frustrated with throughout the shooting, because over in England they have mandated tea breaks throughout the day. Like every 2 or 3 hours, they have to stop and take a tea break. So he got very frustrated with that because, a tea break, literally. And so Cameron got frustrated because he's kind of a real go-getter. He wants to like get as much done in a day as possible. He's kind of a perfectionist. Obviously you have to like stop for lunch and stuff like that. Like he gets that. But, when they're stopping every 2 hours for these tea breaks and he's like ready to shoot, he's like, "Come on, let's keep going. Let's shoot. He got very, very frustrated. It was a very contemptuous shoot. The crew didn't know him, so they didn't really trust him. And even when Cameron set up a screening of The Terminator to kind of be like, "Hey guys, I made this movie. It was pretty critically acclaimed. Like it's pretty good. Like, do you guys want to watch this so you know what I'm doing?" Most of the crew didn't even show up for it. They just continued to kind of do the work. That. Yeah. So it was kind of interesting in that aspect. The original Hicks was casted not Michael Biehn. It was James Remar, who you guys know who James Remar is? Because otherwise I'll remind you. He's kind of a character actor. His most famous roles probably on Dexter as Dexter's dad, his ghost dad.
Ooh,
that's James Remar. His kind of ghost dad. So, and also around the same time, he was in he had done The Warriors. He was the guy in The Warriors who's like, "I'll shove that bat up your ass and turn you into a popsicle." Like that's James Remar. He was in Mortal Kombat Annihilation. He was the replacement Raiden for Christopher Lambert. Anyways, he was casted as Hicks, the Michael Biehn part, and it came out later on. He was fired from the film, and later on it was found because of a drug possession. He got arrested, and they fired him from the film. And on a Friday, they called Michael Biehn and said, "How's your passport? Is it in order?" He goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, can you be here on Monday and shoot this movie?" So he literally, Michael Biehn, who, you assume, because of James Cameron made Terminator, he was Kyle Reese, obviously. You're like, oh, of course he was Hicks. No, he wasn't always Hicks. It was James Remar. So that's it. And they actually shot a little bit with him for about a week or so. So they have a little bit of footage that they shot with him. Yeah. So he's in there doing his thing. Now, Al Matthews, who played Sergeant Apone, was a real Vietnam veteran, and he was a sergeant in the Marines. So his stature and how he kind of carries himself as the sergeant in the film was pretty close to how he carried himself in real life. So, and when they were training for the film, a lot of the people playing the Marines had like a 3-week basic training thing with the British SAS, and Al Matthews, who was playing Apone, was like kind of almost became like a squad leader, helping them learn things, showing them how to present themselves, hold guns, how Marines would sort of carry themselves. So he was a real life Marine veteran. So he kind of his character is very similar to what he was in real life. So which is pretty cool. And you could tell, I mean, he's got that presence about him, the way he delivers those lines, let's go people, they pay us about an hour, let's go, move it out, like you believe him. Right. So the sets that they use at Pinewood, if they look a little familiar to you, it's because they repurposed a lot of the sets for Batman 89 for Access Chemicals. All these scenes at Access Chemicals in the Jack Nicholson, Michael Keaton Batman, the stairwells, the hallways, when the Batmobile's driving through and like laying the bombs and stuff, it was all the sets from Aliens, just repurposed. So if they kind of look familiar when you go back and watch Batman 89, you'll be like, oh yeah, that looks a little familiar. Like that looks like the same thing. So we had a $9 million budget for the original Alien. This one had an $18 million budget, 75-day shooting schedule. As far as the guns and some of the techs go, the giant guns that Vasquez and Drake had were Steadicam rigs. If you know what a Steadicam is, it's kind of a thing they strap around your waist so that the camera doesn't move while you're kind of running around. And Rocky was the movie that pioneered that, when they would run up the stairs while the camera was steady. Okay. So if you ever notice, it doesn't move when they're running up the stairs. It's not shaking all over the place. That's the Steadicam. So they did a Steadicam rig and mounted an old anti-aircraft stripped down machine gun as the actual gun strapped to the Steadicam rig. So that's what that was.
That's cool.
So it's pretty cool, right? So it made kind of a unique, cool, memorable gun.
It did. Those guns were amazing.
Those guns were so good. The pulse rifles were a mix of a Thompson machine gun and a Franchi 12 shotgun, just kind of blended together with a little shell on the end of it. So again, it doesn't look like any real gun because it really wasn't. Like I told earlier, there was 15 operators for the Queen puppet, moving all around all over the place. And there was a few miniature things when it's running up hallways and stuff like that. They use mirrors for that scene where they first wake up in the pods when the Marines first, have that locker room scene at the beginning. There was actually, you can see there's mirrors to make it look like there's more pods than what there are, because those pods are expensive. They're like $4,000 a piece. So they only had 6 of them. But with mirrors made it look like more like 12 or 15. So that's what they use, a little camera trickery. Let's see, those the scenes in the corridors near the end with all the red, where Vasquez is shooting them and things like that, and they're kind of crawling really fast, through the chutes. That was done by them lowering down the performers in a vertical shaft, and they're just kind of crawling at the shafts, kind of crawling at the metal. So they're lowering down on wires to make it look more smooth. So it's kind of makes it look more fluid that they can just fly through these things, because they basically were. Okay. Paul Reiser had 2 of his family members strike him at the premiere, telling him he's an asshole at the end of the movie. Wow. His sister and his mother both kind of hit him on the arm, going, "You're an asshole." So his character
probably more of a compliment that they did such a good job.
I mean, to me, I would take it as a compliment that he sold the character so well that they were so mad at him. But and basically at the beginning of the movie, or at the beginning of the shooting stages of the movie, there was a little bit of delay as far as after when Terminator got made and when Aliens got made. So Cameron actually had several months. They were waiting for Conan the Destroyer to be made, because there was like commitments for like Fox was like doing stuff, and for whatever reason he couldn't make the movie, so he had an extra 7 months to kind of lay out the script, because he wrote the movie as well. And he basically, the way he pitched it was, what if the original movie just had more of like Terminator tie-up action in it? And that's kind of how he sold it. And and Sigourney Weaver got paid a record-breaking at the time $1 million for her role as Ripley.
Oh, wow.
To come back.
Now some people get paid like 10 times that much.
Oh yeah, a whole lot more than that. yeah, definitely.
But still, that was a lot of money. I'd be curious.
A lot of money at the time, especially for a female lead getting paid $1 million. Yeah.
So what What year was that? And I'm curious to do the actual numbers.
86. Okay. And she also got a slight percentage of the profits as well, which didn't hurt because there was this movie was very profitable, much like the first one.
Yeah.
Well, curious what that is worth today.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jordan, did you have anything online that you wanted to bring up?
Oh yeah, so there's a couple of things that I wanted to mention. So, like a lot of other Hollywood movies, the scenes aren't always shot in chronological order. So the scene where they first meet all the all the Marines, where they're kind of ball busting and that kind of thing. That was shot. That shot as the very last scene of the whole entire movie, because James Cameron wanted all the actors to have some time to build up the camaraderie and to be able to have that kind of like look and feel that they actually knew each other. So they filmed it at the very last scene was when they actually met each other. All of that, or when they came out of hypersleep, I should say. And there's another scene also too where I think it's like where Ripley's having like a psych evaluation kind of thing, and he's like talking to one of the kind of what do you want to call it, like the like suits, the kind of corporate people. Somebody left a People magazine actually on the set and actually made it into the movie. So I just want to bring up a little screenshot. You can kind of see it right here. You can see the little People magazine.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
That actually made it into the movie. So that's kind of
at least it's not as bad as Game of Thrones leaving a Starbucks cup or whatever they left on the set of season 8 or whatever it was. You
right. Yeah, that was a little wild. Yeah. But also too, so the spear gun that Ripley used at the end of the first Aliens movie is actually visible in the opening scene, so you can still see it stuck on the bottom of the escape pod door. So
what?
It's still there, so you can see it there.
Oh yeah, it's a nice little detail, continuity detail. Yeah, it's still there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's still there. Seriously?
Yeah, so
that's so cool.
Kind of cool that they kind of kept the continuity going there with that. And then one other things I thought was actually pretty cool, that the alien screams that they use are actually some baboon shrieks that they just altered in post. So they take these shrieks from the baboons and just like make them sound a little more
sort
alien,
of like kind of squeal.
Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah. The sound design of this movie is so good. Like even the sounds of the pulse rifles are different than you hear in other movies. The sound of the firing. The sound design of the movie is so unique on its own that it just doesn't sound like any other movie. There's so many unique, much like Ben Burtt, for Star Wars, kind of created all these unique sounds and sound effects. Like it's so important to a movie to make it stand out,
Yeah. So, and then one other image I wanted to bring up was one of the original looks for the alien queen. So this one I gotta bring it up really quick though. Give me like 1 quick second. I had the other two already preloaded, but there it's right. Let's see. Here we go. Should work hopefully. Let's see. Yep, give it a second. It's coming up here, but it looks pretty cool though. So the original look. So that was the original look. So I'm not really sure which one I actually like better, because I like what they did in the actual movie, but they both look pretty cool. So either way, I would
look fairly similar. I mean,
they do. It's not like the drastic difference where they had the Predator creature. That thing was weird.
Yeah, the original Jean-Claude Van Damme Predator. Yeah.
Yes.
It was an abomination. Yeah. They have a running joke over at the Schmo's nose that they had this Predator costume that was made to look like the original Jean-Claude Van Damme version, and they would make bets, and whoever lost certain bets would have to wear it for an episode. They have to wear the original Predator costume. Thing was just hideous. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's pretty much what I got for the fun facts and all that. So and also too, I don't know if you have any quotes you guys want to bring up. I know we
kind of quoted throughout.
I could quote this movie front to back pretty damn easily. So I mean, it's to me, there's just it's why you get so much more quotes in this one, because you've got that Marine camaraderie where it's like Marines busting each other's balls and making comments. You get kind of that, and you just get Burke, doing his thing, all his corporate lines. But yeah, there's just way more quotable. I'll let you guys take it, and I'll just kind of chime in every now and then.
Probably one of my favorite moments is with the whole freak out. He says, well, maybe we can build a fire and sit around it and sing
some songs.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I love that line.
That was Burke saying that. That was Paul Reiser when he was talking. When Hudson is going, but what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? I don't know. Maybe we could sing songs, make a fire. Sing a couple of songs. I don't know. What do you think we're gonna do? Yeah.
Yeah, like for me, like I just love like when Ripley just gets super intense when she's like, God damn it. Like if that's not all, because one of those things gets down there, then that will be all. Then all this bullshit you think is so important, you can just kiss that all goodbye.
Kiss all out goodbye.
Yeah.
So when she just slams Burke up against the wall, she's like, "These people are dead, Burke. Can you not get that through your head?"
Yeah, right.
So hey, maybe you guys know, okay? Who was the corporate suit in the room who she faces in the hallway? I swear I've seen him in other stuff. And maybe I've been obsessing over this actor.
He was like a character actor, but I know who you're talking about, but I don't know the name off the top of my head. I mostly don't know all the names of the main cast members.
So I only brought him up just because it's like I know I've seen that character actor in other.
The guy who talks about we didn't find any evidence, to back up your claims of an extraterrestrial, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
I don't know his character name, so it's hard to look him up. I would have to just recognize him.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
He's down near the end of the thing.
Things I was thinking about after the movie. Yeah.
But like there's
a guy named Van Leeuwen who I tell you why you recognize it. I think that's who it is. I know his profile picture is from Last Crusade. He's the Coronado guy at the beginning, the guy with the hat.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
Dr. Jones, this is the second time I've had to reclaim my property from you. That guy.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it is him.
So that might be him because he's credited as a character name. His character name is Van Leeuwen, but I can only I don't recognize any of these other names or people because everybody else is just like a tech or a doctor, and he actually had a significant amount of lines, so he probably had a name in the script. So I think that's him. And his profile picture. His profile picture is from Last Crusade on IMDb. I recognize him immediately. So there you go. That's probably what you know him from.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm like,
his name is Paul Maxwell. Yeah, he's known for Aliens and Last Crusade and the Pink Panther and a couple other movies. So yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, he was. They in Indiana Jones, he's only credited as Panama Hat. They never actually give him a name.
Really?
He's just one of those side characters. They just never gave him a name, but people have speculated on who he is. But yeah, for sure.
What if that's in the actual credits? Like if you watch the scrolling credits, you'll see Panama.
It's on IMDb. It just says Panama Hat on IMDb. So I'm assuming that's what he's credited as in the movie. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, one of the fun facts I forgot about.
Yeah, I was gonna say, hit me with some more of your lines that you liked, or some more of your facts.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
So one of the fun facts that I totally forgot about. So they say that they use the F word 25 times in the movie, but 18 of them are spoken by Hudson.
From Hudson.
So,
yeah. Well, and a lot of that was Bill Paxton improv'd a lot of his freak out stuff because Camera talked about at a Q&A I watched from Comic-Con a few years back for the 30th anniversary. They had to go back in and ADR some of his stuff, especially when in his last stand when he gets taken down. They had to figure out what he was saying with all the fire going on. So it's because it's a lot of just yeah, motherfucker, die, motherfucker. Oh, you want some too? Yeah, come get some. Oh, yeah, what about you? They had to kind of slow down and figure out what the hell he was saying. And then he had to go in the booth and re-record these lines, or at least try to, and try to match it with what he says. So yeah, because a lot of it was improvised. A lot of that stuff, the Game Over Man thing was improvised because it basically said that Hudson freaks out in the script, and starts ranting and raving, so he just kind of filled in a lot of the gaps himself. So a lot of the most famous lines
are just one of the greatest lines. Yeah.
Oh, it's the best. Game over, man. Game over.
Yeah. Well, some of the best lines are just when they're just kind of ball busting too. So when Hudson's when he's like, "Hey, Top, what's the op?" And then you have A opponent. It's He's like, it's a rescue mission. Well, you'll love it. There's some juicy colonists, some daughters we have to rescue from the virginity.
Rescue from their virginity.
Yeah. Like, Yeah.
Well, there's another line in that same scene where Frost, Rico Ross's character, the other black dude in the movie, he's going, there's I got some Arturian poontang or something like that. He goes, yeah, but yours was a male. He goes, well, it's Arturian, it don't matter.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm just kind of busting each other. Yeah, it's there's a lot of great like little lines like that throughout the movie.
I forget too when like they have Hicks and we're like someone says something to Hicks and it's like outstanding. All we need now is a deck of cards or something like that. Like,
yeah, little lines like that. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, or like in the very beginning you have Private Frost and they're like kind of ball busting Ripley either. He's like, I guess you don't like cornbread neither, huh?
Or she didn't like the cornbread neither.
Yeah, right.
After she slaps the cornbread out of Bishop's hands, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that whole scene. Anytime when they're just sitting around and like even when they're going down to the thing and Hicks falls asleep and Napoleon's just like, somebody wake up Hicks.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah,
I like when Hudson is it keeps interrupting Gorman. She's like, how do I get out of this chicken shit outfit? He's like, you cut that shit, Hudson. And, Hudson, come here. Just, you can tell he's just fed up with him.
Like, what do they say? They start taking all the gun clips around. They're like what? What are we supposed to use now? Harsh language?
Harsh language? Yeah, that's what Frost says. What are we supposed to use, man? Harsh language?
I love when he pulls out the shotgun. He's like, yeah, I'll need this shit at close quarters.
Yeah.
He's like, I like to keep this handy for close encounters. Yeah, and even when he uses the shotgun later, when they get back to the tank and the alien's coming in and he's just like, eat this, and he shoves it in his mouth and blasts him in the head.
Yes.
It's like
so great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's typical like badass action moments, but there's also just like fun, silly lines and freak out moments. It's to me, it's a almost perfect movie. It's just got the greatest blend of like sci-fi, action, horror, anything you could want, whatever you're a fan of. This movie has it, man, and it has it in spades, and it's so rewatchable. Like again, I've watched this movie I could watch this movie once a week for the rest of my life, and I would be okay with that. Like if I had to, and I would be totally cool with it, man. Like this movie's so good.
Well, after having watched 1 and 2 upon a rewatch, I definitely get that. Number 2, I think is definitely better, but at the same time, without number one we wouldn't have the intensity like we do in number 2. It just wouldn't exist.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. And also too, there's like so many like different sci-fi movies that like trying to like replicate what aliens did. Like you have Edge of Tomorrow that like kind of does some of the stuff. Like that's a great movie, but like I just think that like aliens did it the best.
Starring Bill Paxton from Aliens?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right. Starring Bill Paxton. Yep, exactly. Yep. So there.
And Pitch Black is another one of those.
Oh yeah.
Pitch Black does a little bit more of like what the original movie did, kind of like an isolation horror type thing. Yeah, I mean that genre really became a genre because of Alien, and this whole like and the idea of the sequel, doing something different. It's one of the perfect examples of that, of taking the elements of the first one and just kind of twisting it around and making something new with it, where you still have some of those original elements, but you just amplify it and make it, but in a good way. A lot of sequels take it and just, like Siskel was talking about, but I disagree, like take it to an overkill, like Bad Boys 2, something like that, that just overkill it. So, and it doesn't do that.
No, like it does it in the right way, where like other movies that like trying to up the ante kind of make it all over the place, where it's just like just too much of a jumbled up mess kind of thing, like Bad Boys 2. I would say I would never say that to Josh McCouga, but I mean to anyone else, I think that Bad Boys 2 is kind of overkill.
I love it, and I prefer the first
Bad
one.
Boys
3 even more. It's just like
Bad Boys 3 was
the
awesome.
Tyson Knott on amazingness. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, and I can clearly see like you like cringing, Austin. You're like,
I hate the Bad Boys. I don't like the Bad Boys movies. I'm just not a fan. I'm sorry. They're just not my bag.
I like Bad Boys 1, Bad Boys 3, and Bad Boys 2 is like, meh, to me. It's kind of too much Michael Bay.
Like Aliens, too. It is a fucking legit movie. So, my book's good enough. Hey, so I have a question for you, and I feel like maybe you've talked about this, but what are the posters behind you on the wall?
Okay, so the ones I have I got these cool prints from a company, and I have a Clint Eastwood thing over there. I'm like obsessed with like Western Clint Eastwood, but the 4 I have behind me in the sort of design right here is on the bottom. I've got the Italian poster for a few dollars more, my favorite Western that I've talked about. So it's Porcalace down in a pew or something like that. It's all Italian because it's a spaghetti Western. So I get foreign posters because sometimes they have cooler artwork and designs.
Right.
Yeah.
So I really like them. And it still has like Clint Eastwood being a badass on the cover.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
Yeah, so it's hard to see the other ones. On the right, I've got the original poster for The Day the Earth Stood Still, one of the great science fiction movies ever.
Oh yeah.
At the top, I have another Clint Eastwood movie called Where Eagles Dare. It's a war film that he did that inspired the Wolfenstein games. Because they kind of infiltrate like a Nazi castle, and it's very similar to the Wolfenstein games.
I gotta watch that.
And go look up the poster for it. The poster is them on a Nazi train car. It looks like something from a video game, shooting Nazis at a castle from like a cable car. It's pretty damn cool. But it's awesome. And then the one I have on the left is the Japanese poster for the original Gojira. So that's what that is.
Okay,
that's awesome.
And then I have a big giant
I've been on those posters for a while. And I'm like, what are those cool posters behind him?
Right. I'll take some close-up pictures for you, and I'll shoot them in the chat after the show. That's some of the other stuff.
So you're saying you got foreign posters? Where'd you get those from?
I just go online and look up these print companies that do these laminated like hard prints. So those aren't even posters; they're just like these hard, prints. And I forget the company I got those from, but I get those like they're called like canvases instead of posters.
Oh yeah,
so I get like these hard canvases, and those I got framed. And sometimes I'll just look up some of my favorite movies, and I like the artwork. And I sometimes look for the foreign ones, like I said, because they've got cool artwork.
Oh yeah, that's like
definitely. Mm-hmm.
That's like the link I posted in our chat leading up to this were some pretty amazing behind the scenes photos, but also one of the cooler movie posters for this one was the Japanese movie poster for Aliens. It was kind of like, it was almost like artistic.
Yeah.
It kind of seemed, it was cool.
Yeah, man. Like they don't always make movie posters like they used to, because like,
they used to be like more. They used to be a little more hand drawn, or like they used to just, instead of just all the posters today, just Photoshop the actors' faces all over the poster, with something in the background. And it's so generic. But like you look at like the poster for like The Thing, where it's like that figure, just a shadowy figure and the explosion behind them, or even the original Star Wars poster where it's the hand drawn animation of all the characters, shooting the lightsaber up in the air and all that kind of stuff. Posters. That's a whole. We'll have to talk about this on the on our podcast when we start the podcast. Maybe some of our favorite movie posters and how cool, how much better old school posters are better than like new posters for sure. And maybe we send them to Jordan and he can pop them up on the screen while we're doing them or whatever. And
that would be cool.
Posters are great.
We'll do a For Your Ears. And so I kind of jokingly teased them like, hey, soon you'll be able to hear us in your ears.
In your ears.
And see us in your ears, because it's the windows to your soul.
Yeah. For your ear holes and some for your eye holes, right?
See my voice and hear his face.
Yeah, right.
I love that. Yes.
See my voice.
That's one of the better.
That is a tagline.
It's one of the better. It's actually a line from a movie, a horrible movie, but it's one of the better lines from The Watch, that terrible movie with like with like Ben Stiller and like Jonah Hill. It's a horrible movie, but it's when Jonah Hill's like got up in the guy. He's like,
I like it.
Yeah, he's like, see his voice and hear his face or something like that.
Yeah. It's a movie where they just stumble upon a random orgy out of nowhere. They're like, what the frick? They open like a door and it's just there, and they're like, okay.
Guys, this has been so much fun. I don't think I need to ask, what are your,
thoughts on the film? Right, How about we leave Jordan for last because it's his blind spot. So it was his first time. We'll let him talk last. So we'll build up to him. First of all, Jordan, I'm envious of people like you that get to see these movies for the first time and have that experience, because I can't ever go back and have that experience of watching it for the first time. So like, rather than always being like, I can sometimes be like, oh man, how have you seen that movie? But at the same time, when you're gonna watch it, I'm like, oh man, I'm so excited for you to like experience this movie for the first time, like, because I want to share this, this experience that I have of this movie with you, and like it's one of those things where I hope that when people see it, classics like this or Jaws or whatever, because you saw Jaws for the first time too recently, and it's like I'm envious of that, because these are these classics that you get to experience and be like, holy crap, like they're amazing. I finally got to see this movie on the big screen 2 years ago, which was a dream come true of mine. A theater did a repertory screening, just like it was one, not like a hosted screening or anything like that. But it was one of those ones where like it's like flashback cinema, and we're showing aliens tonight. So I made sure I had the night off and went and watched it, and it was everything I wanted to be. It was one of the few ones I hadn't seen in the theater yet. But like this movie, I mean, what is there to say about it that we haven't said in the 2 hours and 50 minutes or whatever we've been gushing about these movies? It's just everything just works. Like the chemistry of the characters, the writing is so good. The special effects hold up. Like, there's the practical stuff, the sets, the set pieces, the character dynamics, all the callbacks, everything just works, man. This movie is just so good.
You genuinely care about the characters. Like I cared about all of the characters.
Mm-hmm. You get invested. You get invested in Burke's fate. You get invested in Bishop till the end of the movie, whether he's going to be good or bad. You get invested in Ripley's journey of overcoming this PTSD and stepping up. You get invested in Newt's survival story. You get invested in these Marines, like as they're going through this crazy situation, and Hicks and everybody. And it's literally the definition of a roller coaster movie, because the whole first hour of the movie you're going crank, 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 and then you get and when it goes into overdrive, it's just like whoa, and then it's like you find like the power loader at the end is like the final loop before you go into the station. You know what I mean? When you think it's over and you hit one last loop and then you go into the station and cool off. It's you can literally map out this movie like a roller coaster. It's so great. It's so rewatchable. I hope I've conveyed that it's one of my favorite movies of all time for a reason, and it's just
the ending is so satisfying.
So satisfying
when she wins, and also you have the alien like grabbing onto her. Like you still think there might be a possibility that she can be dragged down into space with it.
Well, because what does she tell Newt? She says, "I'll never leave you," and she goes, "Cross your heart, cross my heart, and hope to die." And she kind of pauses. She goes, "And hope to die." If she has to die to take these aliens down, that's exactly what she's going to do. She will absolutely do it.
And that's what a mother does.
Yes, that's what it's the mother versus mother. And even from the Queen perspective, the Queen is pissed off because you just killed off her kids. Even she has a motive, so like it's so sad. You get invested in everything.
Yeah,
the movie's great. I hope I've conveyed how much I love it and why it's my favorite movie of all time.
Well, man,
I could watch this movie over and over.
Well, again, it's one of those movies that's also too like when you think it's going to be over, there's actually like a little more to it, where you have another extra little struggle. But it's not something where you're like annoyed by it.
It's earned.
Yeah,
it's not a tacked on. It's not like these movies nowadays where they leave you on it, or they get to a perfect ending and there's like 10 more minutes of dialogue and then they cut to credits. That's completely deflates everything. This movie has a almost like a tacked on extra ending, but it's earned. You are with it, and it's so satisfying when it happens. Man, when that, like I said, when that door lifts up and she's with the mech suit, you're like, oh, let's go. Like, let's go. Let's do this.
Well, it's like I always point out, the Lord of the Rings, the Return of the King, like the movie's earned, but at the same time though, once you reach the first of like the 5 multiple endings that they have at the end, you're just kind of like, all right, like there would have been a perfect ending when they kissed or something, and then
it would have been a perfect ending when they kneel for everybody. Like I thought that was the best ending for that movie, when they all kneel around the hobbits.
Yeah,
then you got Return of the King. Like that'd be like a perfect ending, and then they keep going and do another ending, and then they go off in the ship, and there's another ending. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh my god, like what are we doing?
You got to cut to the elves. You got to cut to the Shire.
It kills any momentum. It kills any momentum you had in this one, we whittle down the characters. We're still invested. When people go down, you're like, oh man, that stinks, but like it's a good way to go out. Blah 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 blah. And then when it's over, you're exhausted, but in that best way where you're so invested in the movie, you're so with it that you're just like, whew, man, that was a ride. That was an experience, watching this movie.
It's like one of those movies. So like I have a certain movies that when I see them, like have you ever had a movie where you watch it and then as soon as it's over, you're like, I'm going to watch that again. Let's cue it up again and watch it again. Yeah. So it's like one of those movies.
Yeah.
Like I've had certain movies
that
I go see in like theaters. I'm like, I could literally sit through it like another 2 hours of that all over again. Like no problem.
I legitimately think that Aliens could come out today exactly the way it is, and it would be a hit.
Oh, absolutely.
You wouldn't have to change a thing, and it would still be a hit. It would still be a success. Yeah. It would be a critical hit, exactly the way it is, which is the sign of a great movie like Back to the Future, like Jaws. Like you could put it in theaters right now, and it would be legit.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of movies like that, yeah. But I mean, well, there's a lot, but actually, when you think about it, is there a lot? I mean, kind of, but but yeah. So, yeah. If you had to give it a score out of 10, then so we went to.
Well, mine, so we'll just move on to Chris. I mean, mine's not a question.
Yeah. Yeah. I know Chris is because he's pretty like what do you call it? like pretty easy with those 10s. So
what?
But,
me?
Yeah. You're always giving out 10s to all kinds of movies, and I'm like,
I do not always give out 10s.
Yeah. I'm like, is that really the greatest movie you've ever seen?
Y'all didn't give Taxi Driver a 10. Y'all gave it like 7s or 8s and stuff, right? Like, I mean, it wasn't like a perfect movie, right?
I did not give it a perfect 10. I love that movie, but I would never give it a perfect 10.
Well, again, and movies don't have to be either a 10 or a 1. Like you could have some where you're like, I really like this movie, but it's like Alien. I really, really like this movie, but it's not a perfect movie for me because again, I have to be in the right mood to sit down and watch it, and it's not as rewatchable to me as Aliens is.
One of the ones that has everything.
Sorry, it sounds like
it has everything.
And I'm supposed to be all alone here because my wife's out of town. So I'm like, what the heck? So, anyways, but yeah, for me, like I'd probably give it a 10 too, just because there's a reason why I gave Aliens a 9 because I think that Alien the first one a 9 because Aliens is that much better, and I hate to really say it, it almost makes me feel like Aliens is just so good that it almost makes me want to rate Alien lower, even though like I know that it's good, but this one's just so much better. So like it just kind of like it sort of does that for me. But I give it a 10, and there's not many movies. So like I have this list of like my all-time favorite movies I've been going through. I've been posting it in the group on the Facebook group, Swim on Friends and Family every few days, and like I'm just curious to see because I haven't ranked it yet where it's going to land all the time. So it's kind of
well, and that's going to come with
where it's going to land.
You just saw it, so it's going to take time to sit with you. You're going to have times where you're going to rewatch. I mean, Aliens wasn't always my favorite movie of all time. Like, it takes time to be like to have that realization that like this movie has everything I want in a movie, which is why it's my favorite movie. Because as a kid, like my favorite movie was probably like Aladdin or something. You know what I mean? Probably like some Disney movie or something. You know, like then your tastes change over time, your perspectives change over time, and and obviously you said like your favorite movie right now is like Logan, right? So it takes time to kind of set things in and how they speak to you personally. Like Alien doesn't speak to me. Like Alien speaks to me, man. Like I get so invested in that movie. Like that's why I'm so with it.
So for me, like Logan was one of those movies where like right after I saw it for the very first time, and it's like one of the few movies I had maybe like 5 movies in my whole entire life where like where I go to see it. I walk out of the theater and I'm like, I think that was my favorite movie I've ever seen in my life, but it's only been like 5 in my whole entire life. So like that's a pretty big moment when that
well, at that point, you hadn't seen Aliens or Jaws yet, so it was like okay.
So can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Respond to this and say always give everything a 10. Okay. I love the Purge series. I hated the Purge movie. I would give the first Purge movie like a 0. Okay.
Oh.
First Purge movie was a pile of shit. I like the ones with oh my gosh, why can't I think of who
Frank
the amazing
Grillo?
leader? Yeah, Frank Grillo. He's just a great lead in those movies up until Purge Anarchy, which was
way better,
a pile of shit. Okay, pile of shit. And then the latest movie which they're going to do, and I'm just like, no.
Yeah, they did like the Purge election year. They did a bunch of weird ones. Yeah.
Anarchy is the one with Frank Grillo that's good.
I mean,
and then the election year
Purge
stinks.
Anarchy.
Yeah. No, that's an example of
election year
of a sequel that takes the original premise and makes it better and expands on it and gives you something to invest in. It's definitely one of the talking about sequels. Yeah, it's one of the better straight sequels out there for sure.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Well, Chris, one thing I have to say, what kind of rating did you give for Monster Hunter when you went to go see it? Because I thought you gave it a 10 when I watched your review online.
I loved Monster Hunter, dude.
I was like, Monster Hunter. That movie was just. It looked like a B movie. It didn't even look good. I'm like, I don't know.
Did you ever see Monster Hunter?
I never saw it, so I mean,
it was genuinely a fun movie in theaters. I think so. So my first movie back to theaters was on.
Was anything like Resident Evil? I don't.
Let me see. Okay, no, nothing like it. Okay, my first movie back to the theaters is on Hinge, and I know a lot of people are like, "Oh my god, that movie's really dark," but I think it's fun. Would I give it a 10 out of 10? Probably not. I'd probably give it a 8. 8 out of 10. And then I saw Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter, I felt like had something for everyone. Like it had your awesome writing. It had your dynamic characters. It had some incredible fighting.
I guess I'll have to see it.
Really, like
I might be surprised.
We'll have to do a segment on the podcast where we review Monster Hunter and I'll watch it. So, and kind of see what's going on.
Because I save that for another. It was like a fun time going to the movies.
Yeah. Right. Or look, we all watch a movie and we see how our review it.
See, that would be fun to me, man. So I still haven't seen Wrath of Man. I'm excited to see that one.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see that new Angelina Jolie.
It was a lot of fun. I went and saw it. Yeah. So yeah.
And I'm excited to eventually see Spiral.
Yep.
Yeah. Jordan, we got to wrap this up. We've been talking for 3 hours about Alien and Aliens.
Right.
People are probably getting sick of us now. They're like, guys, you talked longer than the extended cut of Aliens.
They're
like, what are you guys doing? Falling asleep.
They're like, we're all pretty good friends. We just talk. We just talk for hours.
If you want more of the non sequiturs, yes, join us for our upcoming podcast called Podcast League Now that we're going to start, and it'll be a lot more of what we do on the post show. Let's per se when we turn the go off live. So kind of bullshitting with each other.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
We're going to have like probably like a set time limit for that, but at the same time, like
who knows what will happen.
Well, you'll see. Like we'll have a general time limit of like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that, and we'll make sure we stop within 5-10 minutes of it. Like a loose kind of set time, if that makes sense to anyone.
So, watch our first Raw podcast be like 8 hours long, and we're all just about nothing.
8 hours long.
We're like, wait a minute, we got to film 3 of these today. Come on.
The fuck was that?
Yeah, right.
We're all podcasting from like those chairs in Idiocracy that have the built-in toilets, so we just keep talking and talking and talking.
Yeah, right. But yeah, well, we all kind of gave our thoughts, so we'll just kind of wrap it up there. So we'll just go around, and you guys can let me know where we can find you. We'll start with Austin, and where can we find you?
Where can we stalk you?
Stalk you.
We're all kind of here on this channel, but
I'd be honored to have a stalker at this point. But yeah, really, I mean, it's like this channel, like Movie Hero. Like I'm all over the shows on here, but yeah, I mean, that's really about it. We'll eventually get to do another live from Movie Hero at some point.
Right.
SNL. We haven't filmed that one in a while. Yeah, once the schedules finally work out, we've had a couple of false starts, but we'll finally get to it. And we're thinking about retooling it a little bit, maybe just doing like a single episode or something each episode, just to kind of maybe condense it a little bit for Jordan. There's a lot of notes that go into Live from Movie Here, people. A lot of behind the scenes go into that show. We gotta write a lot of stuff down for that show.
A lot
fancy. More than stuff like this. Yeah, we're fancy, and I go.
Notes take longer than it takes to film it for me, at least. So
basically.
There are like 5 hours of prep and like an hour show.
Right, exactly. So we'll squeeze it in when we can. But yeah, that and we've got some tier ranker fights coming up. That should be fun. So definitely.
All right, cool. And then Chris, where can we find
we have my. I really should know my stuff, shouldn't I?
you?
Honestly,
Yeah.
hold on.
Yeah, you
throw up
should.
a little banner here, wherever it is. Here you go, so you can read it.
So Twitter at a writer _84, Instagram cscott 1128 are the main places you can find me. Instagram, if you mostly want to just see a bunch of selfie photos, which I probably take way too many of those. Yeah. So it's a good time. Hey,
Yeah.
and of course, feel free to email us. Let us know what you guys thought of the show.
Yeah, if you guys have any,
that even more for our own podcast for some reviews.
Yeah, Jordan, that brings us to Jordan. What's the next blind spot? Which one are you going to tackle?
Dun, 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 dun.
So we haven't really determined it yet. We still need to kind of talk about that one. So that'll be to be continued. We'll let you know. TBD,
well, can you at least hint at some of the options that are on the table?
Yeah.
I mean,
so we can speculate.
If I had to look it up, so I got a little note on my phone.
He's got so many. He's got to look it up. It's not just off the top of his head. He
has a ridiculous number of blind spots.
I know, right?
I don't know this off the top of my head. I know one of the ones I wanted to do was Coming to America. That's definitely on the radar because I wanted to do it back when Coming to America 2 came out, but we kind of got busy and things got away, and then that never happened. But
I know I need to do a rewatch of Coming to America so I can watch Coming to America.
And I've never seen it, so a confession. Yeah, I have it. I have the Blu-ray over in my collection. I never broke it out.
Hey, there's another show you can join us for with an actual watch from yourself, sir.
Jordan, it's got to be something like epic, like Aliens. You know, it's got to be like a big one. You know that you haven't seen.
So I just recently watched The Godfather Part 2, so that might be one on the radar. That's a pretty big one. Some other ones on the radar that I haven't seen. Some of the big ones, like Pulp Fiction. That's one.
Yeah, I could talk for days about Pulp Fiction.
Ooh, Jackie Brown.
Yeah, I haven't seen Jackie Brown. I haven't seen Shawshank Redemption or Willow. That's another kind of fantasy one.
Willow, no.
I've never seen the original Psycho. That's one that I kind of want to talk about. I've never seen Kill Bill Volume 1 or 2, so that's one.
Basically,
we got some
you haven't seen most of Quentin Tarantino's IMDb. That's what most. Yeah.
No, I
was doing that to Willow.
Yeah.
Basically, I've seen Django and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and if I can think of some of it, I've seen The Hateful Eight. Yep, I've seen that one. But but pretty much anything before Django is what I have.
His '90s stuff mainly, and kind of the early 2000s. Okay.
Yeah, so like anything before
you
that.
You could easily do a big episode on Pulp Fiction because there's a lot to talk about there. Shawshank is really a big one that you could talk about for a while. That'd be a pretty big episode because that's a pretty epic, movie from nowadays. Those are definitely good options.
Hey, have you seen Rambo: First Blood, Jordan?
Yeah. So I've seen.
Okay.
Seen all, but
these movies are amazing.
I think I've seen all the Rambo movies actually. So yeah, but
James Cameron wrote Rambo: First Blood Part 2.
Oh yeah,
little tidbit.
What?
Little tidbit. Yeah.
I did not know that.
He wrote the script for it while he was making Terminator.
Wow.
All right. We're gonna focus on the outro.
Okay, mind kind of blowing.
Wrap this thing up.
I know we gotta knock this out.
Wrapping it up.
But for me though,
another hour, guys.
I'm gonna take off the little ticker we got here because I'm like Chris. I know all my social media stuff, but like basically, I don't really do like a whole lot of social media. I don't do Twitter. I don't do Instagram. I do Facebook. So you can find me at Jordan Anderson 21 on Facebook. I am in the Schmodown Friends and Family group. We have tier ranker fights that Austin kind of touched on this Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Or no, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Sorry, we're going to be doing the best TV moms of all time, and then shortly after we're going to be doing this upcoming Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, best '90s comedies, and that one's going to be a pretty fun episode. We're gonna have Kate Mulligan on there. We're gonna have Rachel Silvestrini, Eric Zipper, and Peggy Gubbins on for that one. So that'll be fun. The one this Friday is gonna be a little more lighthearted of an episode. We should still tune in for sure. I'm going to be showcasing some of my family members that are going to be joining us. I think both Austin and Chris are going to be part of it. So
it's going to be a nice time. Every now and then you got to have a nice laid back episode, just talking about something fun, not talking about hardcore movies and things like that, just talking about some moms. But we did already tease in our own chat. We're going to fight it out on Dr. Beverly Crusher and why I think she's a horrible mom and why you think she's
a great mom.
We're gonna fight it out on
space. Come on.
We'll leave it tease it there and say if you want to see why, you tune into the show on Friday. Tune in.
All right, guys. Well, before this keeps on going into 4 hours.
Yeah, right. So,
right.
Well, two things I wanted to just mention real quick is that we have a podcast coming up that we just ordered someone to do a little professional voiceover for intros. So as soon as I get that back, we'll basically probably have that intro up within 24 hours, and we'll be good to go on that.
I'm going to work on filming my clip, so I'll do that.
Yeah, for sure. So, and also, since we're talking posters for a little bit, I just wanted to show something. So I thought one of the things we could do for the podcast, I have all these these are original one sheet posters I've been collecting from the movie theater. So I got all kinds. I think one probably I'm just going to showcase one or two. One of the ones Chris, you might actually want this one actually, but it's
Jack told you I want a couple of your.
It's the original Peanuts one from the Peanuts movie, original one sheet one, and I know you're a huge Peanuts fan.
Oh my gosh!
There you go.
Got that one in there.
I would cut off my right arm off for that one. I would cut off my right arm off for that one, man. I would sell my soul for that one.
Nice.
And also, too, I got some kind of cool ones. So, like, I got one here for Terminator Genesis. There, that's a pretty cool one.
Dark Fate.
Dark Fate. Sorry. Yeah, and then I got this
Ex Machina.
Ex Machina one. That's cool. I got let's see. Let me find. Oh, so I got this cool Jumanji one.
I love that movie.
I'm gonna do the next level for the sequel. Let me find one or two more, and then we'll call it good. But just for a funny one, someone just wants something kind of silly. I got even a Cats one, so they gave me this Cats one. So we got that one. We even got.
You can use that one to line the litter box because that movie is garbage.
Right.
Ooh, do Sonic! Heck yes.
Or speaking of the Terminator. Genesis actually do have Genesis, so that's there.
Oh,
so
dude,
you got that one, and
that is a dope poster.
Sonic one with Jim Carrey on the front, so that's pretty cool. I love that movie. That movie was awesome. Same here. Same, yeah. Actually, love so that's just a little taste of some little giveaways we're going to be doing. So if you tune in, we haven't really decided how we're going to do it. We probably need to come up maybe some trivia question, maybe. If people can answer some trivia or some kind of contest, so we'll let you know. But they're definitely going to be having some giveaways. So anyone who stuck around past the 3 hour mark and was able to hear about the little giveaway, we'll be doing that on the podcast. So it'll be a podcast league now.
Please
you'll
let
be seeing it within a week or two.
In advance. I want that poster.
If you can answer if you can win the contest,
answer a trivia question.
Yep, right. Yeah, you got to win the contest. But yeah, so I think that'll do it for us. Though we'll just kind of call it good now because we could go on and on, as you can tell. But
we could, dude. I'm so excited to do this podcast together, man. It's gonna
be fun.
Yeah,
it'll be a great time. So yeah, for Austin, for Chris, I've been Jordan Hicks today as my favorite character from Aliens. But yeah, we will catch you next time.